Hey, welcome back to the Pylon Show. I'm so sorry for missing the episode this past week, and I'm especially sorry to my guests for having to put that off. I got really, really sick. But here we are with the makeup of the episode. It's kind of a weird day, kind of a weird time for it. Not when we usually do it, but thank you everyone for tuning in. Please spread the word. This is a very exciting and cool episode today where we are going to talk about the StarCraft 1 AI scene. Now, I don't want to elaborate too much on that quite yet. We will dive into that very deeply after this week in StarCraft. But first, let me introduce my guests. Of course, coming back once again. Everyone knows him and loves him. Nice username. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Thanks for having me. It's always, an honor to come on the show. I watch it all the time. So yeah, I'm just super happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, it's great to have you. And you streamed playing against a lot of the bots, which was really fun. I watched quite a few of those games. So excited to have you on the show to talk about that. We also have two big figures within the StarCraft AI scene. Sanko, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Thanks for the opportunity, first of all. My name is Sanko, and I run a site called Making Computer Do Things, which is all about StarCraft AI. I started working on developing a bot of my own, a StarCraft Brood War bot of my own, and documenting the process. And somehow it turned into me being an unsolicited community ambassador for this whole scene, as I started to reach out to other communities and basically try to share what it's all about with the outside world. And I'm the one who runs the Undermined podcast, which you so graciously featured in the show notes many times. And we just did an episode before the Pylon show. And I do a lot of things around this scene. I also compile sometimes the AI news segment for this show as well, when there is something going on. And I think that's enough for an introduction for now, but feel free to ask any more.
Great. Well, thank you for all that. Definitely between your videos that you've graciously given us to throw on the show and all that with the updates from this week in StarCraft, along with this guy's stuff that he's talked to me about. Antigua, I have spoken to you in the past a little bit. You were one of the first people that peeked on my radar for what was going on in the StarCraft AI scene. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Thanks. Name's Nathan Roth, or Antigua. I've been around StarCraft for a long time. Did stuff with SC2GG and Psionic Reaver and Salve and Noni and all those guys way back in the day. but been involved in the academic and the sort of research side of StarCraft. I'm the Discord admin for the SCHNAIL group. I also run a couple of the StarCraft tournaments. I've consulted on several of the top AI bots. And I think a bot that I'm working on right now is like Top Zerg, my personal one. And then I've worked on 2 of the other top 5s as well. So as a consultant and helping with those.
Actually, Antigo was the so Antigo was the founding fathers, or one of the founding fathers of the Undermined as well. There's just that he was in the first episode, and I think he is one of the most frequent ones, as he's kind of a prominent figure in this community, so to speak. And without his organization of the SCHNAIL Discord and some activity around this scene, we wouldn't be here today, I think.
Well, definitely you two are the right people, I think, to have on the show here today. Let's quickly go through this week in StarCraft, figure out what's been going on in the scene in the past week, and then we'll jump into it and discuss this all a bit more. All right, guys, of course, for this week in StarCraft, if you hear anything that piques your interest, the show notes are so easy to get through. We keep them up forever. You can check them out everywhere, including thepylonshow.com, which actually I forgot to go through. So let's go ahead and talk about our sponsors real quick. Of course, we have patreon.com/The Pylon Show. This is the #1 way that you can support. Thank you, everyone that supports the show so much. We really appreciate you guys. Definitely check it out if you like and appreciate the content here. And of course, if you do support us on Patreon, you can go to thepylonshow.com, where of course you can get everything like our show notes, where you can find anything that I'm talking about in the episode, links to it and all that, as well as our new forums over at the Nexus. And of course, if you are a Patreon, that's where you drop your Patreon Q&A questions, which we will be answering at the end of the show. Also, check out matcherino.com/The Pylon Show. This is a great way to just generate money out of thin air. I don't know how it works, but if you type in the code Peking Duck this week, because apparently it is like National Peking Ducking Day or something like that, you'll give us free money. So do that. Peking Duck. Do you know how to spell that? You don't. It's okay. PEKINGDUCK. All right. Let's move forward into our show notes and talk about this week in StarCraft. All right, we'll jump down to page 3 and start off there. Of course, we have a bunch of upcoming events. You see there's a ton of ESL Open Cups coming up, the OSC Championship Season 7 Finals coming up, the 2020 BJ Destruction Match Season 1 Playoffs, and the Chinese Team Championship 2020 Pre-Season Event. Going down, of course, we have the ESL Open Cups. If you guys missed it, of course, check out last week's episode where we talked about the biggest announcement that we've had in StarCraft in a very long time with the new ESL Pro Tour. These are now cups that are quite important that all the top players are playing in all the time. So definitely do check that out. The OSC Championship, Season 7. Bly, Cure, Mana, B, and Clem face off in the upper bracket, while Euthermal and Vanya face off in the lower bracket. The finals, as mentioned before, are coming up January 3rd through January 19th, so that's basically today or tomorrow. Of course, cast by Wardy, as most things on here will be. The 2020 BJ Destruction Match, Season 1. The playoffs are beginning. Season 1 ends on the 22nd. That's this weekend. Again, streamed at Wardy TV. Check it out. Lots of great players in that. We also have the Chinese Team Championship 2020 preseason event. Dream, Solar, Innovation, and Cure have advanced to the round of 8. Guess who's commentating that?
Wardy.
Yeah, you got it. Wardy's commentating that, and we have some really great players in it. Definitely do check that out as well. All right, this week in StarCraft, the ESL Pro Tour. Server qualifiers were complete. 12 offline finalists to come. The WCS champion, Dark, of course, gets in. 5 players from the Korean qualifiers in Zest, Stats, Parting, Solar, and TY. 3 from EU. including Cyril, Cure. Of course, these are open cups, so Cure was able to go over and play on that server and qualify despite the ping, and a laser. And then 3 from NA. Well, not really from NA, but that's okay. Zest, Maru, and Rainer. So a lot of strong players already qualified for that Katowice, February 24th through March 1st. Of course, that was cast by Wardy as well as Base Trade TV and Colterran. All right, ESL, huh?
You are getting better pronouncing that town's name.
Yeah, I'm trying. It's I've said it so wrong so many times. At least I don't call it Katowice anymore, right?
Katowice, I think the most correct.
Yeah. I've been there a lot of times. One day I'm going to get it perfectly. All right, ESL Cup Korea Cup number 1. Solar defeated Time 3-1 in the finals. Really a lot of great players in there. Number 2 is taking place today. Of course, don't forget, this gives out $100 in prize pool as well as 10 points for okay, yeah, and second place is going to get 5 points. So if you get top 2, things are looking a lot better for you now. To go in here, the cast is going to be by Wardy, Base Trade TV, Colterran, and Bel Air. All right, ESL Cup EU, number 1 was won by Hero Marine, who defeated Showtime 3-2. Number 2, today. Or, well, maybe it's tomorrow. I don't know. It's the 19th here. I guess it's technically the 19th where you are, right, Sonko?
Yes, I live in the future. It's like, yeah, we've been talking about this pre-stream, but it's 3 a.m. But yeah, I have my methods, so...
That's an excellent mug right there. All right.
It's a genuine mocha pot. It's not a cup. So cut out the middleman here. So yeah. Little bit early or late. Depends on how you look at it.
Yeah. Very, very early or quite late. All right. So here Marine won that first one. You can see these are completely stacked cups looking pretty sick. In the NA Cup, Scarlet defeated Nice 3-0 in the finals, and the next one coming up today or tomorrow, how you look at it. And yeah, it looks like just so many players from so many regions entering into all of these. So very exciting how that's going with the ESL Cups. Very popular right now. All right, let's jump down to StarCraft. Future went ahead and won the whole tournament. Pretty exciting for our young up-and-coming American Terran player to fly down to Australia. He took out Vindicta in the finals, who took out Blisk in that 3rd place match. Looks like Blisk doing quite well from closer in the region than the 2 Americans that finished on top. Of course, this was cast by Rotterdam and Zombie Grub, and a prize pool of 5,000 Australian dollars. Congrats to Future for winning it, and StarCraft for putting on a very cool event. The Alpha X Junior Championship Season 2, Ghosty defeated Murtillo in Group A. Ghosty is only age 13.
Wow.
Yeah. No, this is a very cool series that the Alpha X is doing, the Alpha X Junior Championships. They are doing all players 15 years old and under and throwing some prize money at them. Very cool to see the upcoming talent, including Rainer's younger brother playing. So definitely something. Yeah, Baby Marine. Keep an eye out. And of course, just because your older brother is really good at StarCraft doesn't mean these other kids aren't going to be sick as well. So very, very cool thing that Alpha X is putting on. Everyone should definitely check that out, I would say. Legacy Weekly Japan. Looks like Winter has finally won one of them. Takes down Rilakkuma 2-1 in the finals there. If you live over in Japan and speak Japanese, definitely check it out. Kung Fu Cup 2019. Well, it's actually 2020. Number 2, Innovation defeated Patience 3-2 in the finals. The cast, of course, over on Wardy's channel. Prize pool of $400. Congrats to Innovation. Copa America 2019 Season 3, finishing up here. Eggs defeated Ryu 3-2 in the finals. In Brazil, Kelger defeated Eric 2-0. And they joined Special and Jarpy as the 4 American players that will play at WESG. Cranky Ducklings provided the coverage. Olima League. We have number 178 here. Ragnarok ended up winning over Zest in the finals, 3-1. Of course, this is one of the greatest places to get StarCraft 2 replays. If you are interested in trying to improve, I definitely would suggest this for you. Check it out at patreon.com/olymoly.
Hey, I got something for this one.
Yeah.
I remember after this, someone posted a thread saying, wow, I can't believe Ragnarok won this event. And why, man? Ragnarok's really sick. I just want to say he's been a really good player for a while. So
yeah,
I don't know why anyone would be surprised.
Almost a year now, he's been looking really, really strong. He's like one of the strongest up. People were asking me who I thought the best up and comer is for this next year, and I want to answer Ragnarok as the Korean hope that it's like this guy has really filled himself out. So definitely not surprised to see him doing well. I think he's going to be a top 3-ish to 4-ish Zerg in Korea this year.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. All right. We also have the Argentum Cup. Bly defeated Vanya 4-1, and he's going to win 3,800 rubles. Whoa. You can check that out. It was only done in Russian, though. We also have the Shirshadi Open #1. Starkiller wins another tournament here, 3-2 over Marsman. #2 is going to play on January 23rd. Sponsored by OSC and Matcherino on the NA server. Check it out. All right, Wardy 2020. The qualifier begins Tuesday, January 21st, and groups will begin on Sunday of that same exact week. And this, of course, is going to be Wardy's biggest tournament ever. A ton of prize pool on the line, $6,000. In fact, he's going to be casting with Zombie Grub for the finals. So check it out over on twitch.tv/Wardy with 3 eyes. Base Trade TV January series. We have 3 of the top 4 already with TLO, Silky, and Future. It looks like probably Jon Snow is going to go ahead and join them in that top 4. And meanwhile, in the qualifiers, we have Denver defeated Bly 3-2, and Vanya defeated Denver 3-2, and Special defeated Silky 3-1. The top 4 are all going to receive Base Trade TV points. Check it out over on Base Trade TV. All right, StarCraft 2 AI Season 8. We don't care about that, right? No. Of course.
They are people too, but just
I want to hear the because there's people always joke about the Brood War elitism. So is there Brood War bot elitism? Brood War AI?
Not elitism. It's just a clearly superior game. So it's
I love it. I love it. It holds true across the title.
Sounds like every Brood War player, yeah.
I know, right? All right. Micro Machine leads Group A in the ladder with a 4-1 record. Genzibot leads Group B with 4-0-1. And this is all going to be on twitch.tv/StarCraft 2 AI. If you are interested in this type of stuff, generally a great place to go is ESChamp. Here it says sc2ai.net. So you might want to check that out as well. Although ESChamp generally does a lot with StarCraft 2 AIs. So I check them out too. All right. Also, In Depth. It is back. And No Regret is back in Korea. So we'll be having an episode on Monday tomorrow. We also have 2 new episodes up with Zerg versus BCs. Those are both Serial Games and No Regrets ZVP Rush build. Some fun episodes that we recorded. Check them out on youtube.com/ArtosisTV. We also have American Thunder League Season 1. It's a competitive StarCraft 2 tournament series, region locked to the Americas with a $400 prize pool. A lot of very, very strong players in there. So check it out, twitch.tv/ThunderJunk77. We also have the CEA Corporate Esports Association, and they are opening registration for the spring 2020 season. So if you work at a company and you want to play some StarCraft 2 with your friends at your company against people at other companies, definitely do check it out, cea.gg. Passioncraft Season 11. It's going to be hosting a $50 weekly open to all on the EU server. It's going to be in cooperation with the OSC. So definitely check them out if you are interested in playing. Epic LAN 29, February 21st through 23rd in Kettering, England. Join the Discord, join the tournament. I wonder how they're going to feel when a guy from New Zealand goes and wins that. All right. ESChamps, Pubcraft. That was a risky joke, by the way. That's okay. From the Holiday Land 7 comes a new event, January 26th. It's going to be the Hive Esports 13 at Toronto, Canada. Very cool. Activities include mono battles, free-for-alls, direct strike, and additional trivia and mini games for prizes. That's awesome. If you are in that Toronto area, check out ES Champs Pubcraft. What a great thing that they're putting together. That's cool. Ryzen $300 open bracket tournament. This is on January 18th, hosted by Rails. I know Rails. He's a good guy. Check it out, twitch.tv/Renegade X Studios. So I guess that's actually going on today. All right, excellent. I guess we'll have the winner for you next week. All right, StarCast. This is a Brazilian Portuguese speaking podcast. If you speak Brazilian Portuguese as opposed to Portuguese, or maybe you can understand each other. I don't know how that works, but check it out, StarCast. The TLNet map contest number 14. Categories: standard, macro, and rush, which is apparently a new category. If you want to have a finger in the maps that are going to be played and complained about by pro gamers, definitely enter the TL map contest. This is actually where most of the maps that we get on the ladder and everything go through. And hopefully we're going to keep track of this better from now on, because maps are such a big deal within the StarCraft 2 pro scene. So definitely...
Thank you for saying that. I wanted to say this is a big deal.
It is. No, it
is a huge deal, and I feel like every single time they could get more votes. I feel that way every time. So vote, and check it out. Hopefully, there are more opportunities to yell about it.
By the way, we talked about that's Brood War, but we talked about maps 2.5 hours earlier today with Freakling on the Undermine podcast. So
awesome.
I think I should interject that here, and it was one of the best episodes. I could sincerely recommend it, and not just because it's my show. So,
no, that's amazing. How did you get Freakling? Because I've been trying to get Freakling on this show so many times. How did you get?
That's the top, or like one of the top Brood War map editor.
Oh, he's
for people who don't know who that is.
I think
Literally, for people who don't know who Freakling is, he makes a bunch of the Brood War Pro maps, and I think he is the only map maker in any sort of modern capacity, I'm talking 15 years, that isn't Korean, that has made maps that are used professionally. And they aren't just like, oh, let's throw in this foreigner map. It's actually some of the very best maps, including the best two-player map ever made. No, actually, that was made by Negative Zero. But no, he makes really great maps. Eddie is an amazing map, and
Roadkill.
He really
Roadkill. I was like trying to remember that one.
Notable.
Yes. He makes amazing maps. Freakling is a very important person, and I'm jealous that you had him on your podcast.
I literally
got to nerd out with him on all the technical stuff of how the maps are made. So,
damn, I'm gonna have to listen to that. All right, excellent. Anyways, the TL map contest. I hope, we're gonna keep track of that and talk about it more, guys. Get involved in this, because this is something that we've really realized, or I've realized rather, very recently, as we've had lots of episodes talking about things like racial balance, map balance. I've had map makers on the show more recently and everything. Pro gamers talking about it. People need to get involved. I always looked at TL map contests. I would see it announced and be like, I'm not even going to click on that news because I don't care. Because I didn't think it really mattered. But apparently it matters like crazy. This is so important. So let's get behind this. Visit TL.net and check out the map contest. And let's get more people behind this. All right. This week in Brood War. Titanus Del Ring Nation Wars. Canada and Peru continue to hold the top spots this week, with Poland moving into third over USA in the playoffs. And again, unfortunately, Team Turkey did not make it into the top. That was such a funny thing when we were talking about that, the cheating going on. But yeah, it looks like the finals take place on February 22nd, and we'll figure out what the strongest non-Korean country is. I love how Europe is a team here somehow. Okay. All right. Brood War G's Weekly, number 53. It's going to be played today, so check it out. This is organized, of course, by Rustbrain and esport.fund. Very important weekly tournament within Brood War. We also have the BSL Season 8, and we have cut into the top 16. This is where the seeds from last season get added in, I do believe. Right? Maybe not. I don't know. I'm pretty sure. I see them right there seated at the top. So anyways, our groups are Jayun, Pro, TT1, and Dandy in Group A. That'll play again, I guess, today. Or maybe it played this morning before I got up. I'm not sure. Also, Group B, we're going to have Bonith, Castro, Goku, and Hawk. Group C, Eon Zerg, DeWalt, Avi Love, and SPX. And Group D, True Touch, Terra, Gorinich, and Crossy. All right. Definitely do check that out. Some very exciting groups right there. It is over on Zero's channel and will be casted by Rapid and Nyokin.
There were some truly crazy games on that, like one with a hidden Zerg base that was I don't recall. I think it was Gornich versus no, it was a PVT. It was Taitu versus Yeti maybe, but yeah, PVZ. I mean,
yeah.
And there was a hidden base right next to the Protoss base, hidden Zerg base, almost through all the game, and that was just spectacular. I rarely get time to watch these tournaments, but that's something you should check it out.
That's a dirty one right there. I hate it when the base is right next to me. We call that the LZ Gamer base.
It had to be Taitu versus Yeti because that's only the only PVZ in this lineup, if I'm not very much mistaken.
Well, okay, I love Taitu, but if you tell me one of these Zergs hit a base, I know which one it was. All right. We also have the BWCL Brood War Clan League. Guys, this has been going on. Season 49, they're not joking. I used to play in this like 15 years ago. I was playing in this clan league every week. Oh, all right. So it's been going on literally for a million years at this point. Okay. Like dinosaurs were still around. It is continuing forward. This week, Nas A defeated IRKA 4-2, and Bull A defeated Soul 5-1. Oh, that's a strong victory right there. Check it out. It's over on Vincent4TV and Evil Bringer on Twitch. We also have the Liquipedia STPL. This is Kix's team tournament on a bunch of weird maps. I'd like to warn all the players, choose colors that aren't the same fucking color. Oh my God, I tried to tune into some of this. Yellow Protoss versus like another yellow Protoss.
Versus
and I'm
like slightly off yellow.
Protoss. Yeah, slightly off yellow versus yellow. I'm like, what is, I would just ban those players. Oh, no, you guys are out of the league. Get out of here. Anyways, yeah. Check it out over on STPL TV on Twitch. We also have the Russian Pro League. This is organized by Silver and Biohazard with $300 prize pool. It's on twitch.tv/GG_Silver. And this is all from the Commonwealth of Independent States. So people that are like Russian and ex-Russian states, I think is what that is. And it plays until January 31st, the latter stage. So check it out. Also have the Caster Muse Star League Season 2. This has been very, very popular lately. And it looks like we are already into the round of 16, which should have just started last night, actually. Oh, nice. Yeah, it looks like many of the world's very, very best players are left in this. And a decent amount of Terrans actually made it through. So definitely worth your time. Go check it out. KCM Challenge Season 8. Terran dominated week 1 with a 4-2 score. Zerg ended the week at 3-3 and Protoss at 1-3. These are not the top players that make it into the KCM. This is, I believe that the way that this works is the players that do well here get to play an actual KCM. But these are all basically pro gamers anyways, so you definitely want to check this out. I promise most people cannot tell the difference between how good Bishop is and how good Light is, for instance. Okay. We also have at you number 32. And in fact, I have at you was going on right before we started. I was actually watching a little bit with Sham2, but the last one, DeWalt won 2-1 over Tai2 in the finals with a $50 prize pool. Check it out over on Sham2's page. We also had the Esports Night show match. And it was SKT against KT. This kind of popped up out of nowhere, and myself and Tasteless got to cast it. Some old SK players against some old KT players. And it had Bisu versus Flash at the end. Definitely some very fun games in there. There was one very funny game in there as well. Yeah, it's very much worth checking out. That was a fun night.
That was a really good event. Don't skip that one. You want to check this one out.
I hope we get more stuff like that.
Yeah. So just to be clear, this was just a one-time thing, right? Or because I remember you said earlier, maybe not. It might be like
well, I know that the esports night is like going to be a new show. Like it was a brand new Twitch channel, and we turned it on. So, but I'm not sure how much StarCraft's going to be on there or anything. But you know, it's like this is like a kind of a fan service type of match. Everyone wants to see something like this. Yeah. So I think it was a great opening night, no matter what else is going to be on that channel.
Oh yeah.
And I hope that they do some more stuff like that. But I actually do not have info as to whether or not there will be more stuff like that or not. But I hope so, because I think it did really well. People were really excited and having a good time.
Oh yeah, it was really good. So I just got a little confused. Thanks for clearing that up.
Oh, no problem.
For an embarrassing long time in my life, I thought that SK gaming was the SK stands for Slovakia, and I didn't understand how did they get so good in that game.
That would be hilarious. Oh my God. All right, check it out. The Esports Night show match. All right, we also have Torch Up. First round round robin, best of 99. First 4 places go to playoff. Oh, this is a bot thing. Okay, hold on. I was like, best of 99. Who the hell is going to play a best of 99 in Brood War?
Only bots.
Yeah. Oh my God. Do you guys want to tell us just briefly about what this is, and we'll dive more into it in a minute?
Absolutely. This is a software conference in Brussels. It is called the FOSDEM conference. I don't actually know what it stands for from the top of my head.
It's free open source development conference meeting thing.
Yes, meeting thing, and it is organized by one of our community members, Jan Chasul, and it is a little bit of a different format because usually bots are written in C++ or Java, and that's this tournament is a little bit more permissive and tries to introduce more programming languages and environments to the mix. I think this is how I can describe it without getting into the technical terms at the best. And I will be going there and personally casting the finals.
Nice.
So
very cool.
That's it.
All right, excellent, guys. Check it out. Sanko will be there casting for you. Torchup.org. All right, the Undermine podcast. Hey, look at this. It's about you again. You want to tell us about... in fact, both of you were on the show this week. Tell us about the show a little bit.
This week, this day, actually. Well, it was yesterday for me, but it was like 6 hours ago. That was the episode with Frickling. And before that, it was this aforementioned episode with Johan and Hannes Bradberg. And you heard it now correctly pronounced, so you don't have an excuse for mispronouncing it ever again. The Undermine is mostly a little bit of an insider thing, and it is by bot developers for bot developers for the most part. But that does not mean that the average gamer can't enjoy it and can't, as in a way, it can be entertaining for the average gamer. We mostly talk about generally the SCHNAIL you see here, that stands for Student StarCraft AI Tournament, and SCHNAIL.org is the address. That's one of the great ongoing tournaments. There is a 24/7 live stream bots playing against each other. And we were retiring. Actually, there was a very great caster who is retiring called Nepeta, and that's the big news. Other than that, I don't really recall what we talked about last time.
It was 2.5 hours of really nerdy discussion on technical details of Broodmore maps this time. So if you're into that kind of thing, it's very interesting. Especially you'll learn a lot about ramps and how they operate and ground and terrain.
Somebody knows that? Someone knows how ramps operate?
Freakling knows off the top of his head perfectly So
That actually sounds very interesting.
it is.
That does. I will be downloading.
Including how the high-low ground and all the different issues and the pathing and all the points and all that. Yeah, it's great fun.
That's good stuff.
Just before we go further, it seems to be that there is a problem with the stream.
Oh,
is there?
Yeah, I'm working on restarting it right now. We still have the recording going. We could just upload the VOD to YouTube. Worst case scenario at the moment.
all right.
Okay, so let's just
Cobra's on it.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
Yeah, that's all right, because we'll have the whole video at the end anyways. It gets way more views on
All right.
video. That's where most people watch it. All right, so hopefully that gets fixed. Sorry about that, guys. If you are listening, we just have I just refreshed mine because I was like, oh, it crashed. That's weird. All right. Anyways, moving forward, definitely check that out on makingcomputerdothings.com. We also have the SCHNAIL StarCraft Artificial Intelligence Tournament Cast. Why don't you tell us a little bit about this as well? Got a lot of news from you guys this week.
Yeah, so every year they have the big student tournament in December, and this is casting the games that come out of that and the finals. The first half of the round of 16 has been casted, and basically every Sunday the following games go up, and Nepeta's casting those.
So these are all students, it says? Like in the title, it's to be
a combination.
in
So only students are eligible for the actual reward portion of it. The professional sort of corporate projects play also, but they're not rewarded the same way.
Okay, just curious. Cool.
All right. Also, well, you can check that out at, well, we have the links in the show notes, but twitch.tv/SSCAIT. We also had the 2020 Africa TV Challengers Star League Season 1. The sole qualifier, even though it was won by Cali, he's been banned from Africa for some illegal gambling activity. So Spire took his spot. Then we had Bishop win the Gwangju qualifier, Gecko win Busan, and C.KH win Daegu. And I believe the finals of this tournament is actually tonight, but I haven't checked it out as of yet. This, of course, Africa TV Challengers Star League. It's amateur players. I did play, and Tasteless played in a couple of them and reviewed those videos on YouTube if you want to check those out. But yeah, we'll have an update for you next week as to who won this tournament. We also have This Week in Awesome. Looks like we now have a new little page, StarCraft podcasts and talk shows, with links to all the other shows that are going on, which is excellent, including the Undermined podcast and the SSCAIT report, the Pig Show, StarCast, In Depth, and La Espera podcast. So definitely check that out. An easy, quick place to find everything that you need. And that is it for this week in StarCraft. Let's double check on what's going on with the stream here. Matt, are we gonna have any way to fix this, or
I believe it's already been fixed. We should be good to go now.
All right, excellent. Sorry about that, guys.
About 2 minutes straight, so fingers crossed.
Looks good for me.
Okay. So it looks like the stream is back online. Sorry about that, guys. Just some technical difficulties. It happens, especially when I'm involved. Okay. Oh, did we lose Sonko? Oh, there he is again.
I'm back. It seems like there is some internet problems in all of Europe. First the stream, then me. So I don't know.
Well, you're the only one in Europe. We're not crazy enough to be up at 3 a.m. So
yeah, that's what I get for being a mad lad. So
love it. All right. Well, okay. Let me try to open this up a little bit. So what we're talking about here today is StarCraft 1 and the AI scene. Now, a lot of people have gotten more interest lately in AI in general from DeepMind, who, of course, tried to tackle StarCraft 2 with what turned out to be called Alpha Star. Now, the cool thing I think that they did was, I remember I was actually there to kind of introduce them on the BlizzCon stage in, what was it, like 2016 or so. And one of the very first slides they showed was that, hey, we are not the first people to try StarCraft AI stuff. This scene has been around for a long, long time, and they've done a ton of work within it. Now, you guys kind of represent the basis of all that, right? So while a lot of people know about Google DeepMind and have learned a lot about it, especially over the past year, where it became much more public, there's a lot of similarities, I think, and a lot of differences with what you guys are up to and how this functions and everything. So I'm very ignorant on everything, so please fix anything I say and bring up things that I don't quite know. But yeah, let's start talking about it. I mean, obviously it's been going on for a very long time. So like when you guys started, it was, StarCraft 1 only, and StarCraft 2 didn't even exist.
Right.
Yes.
What would be, just to kind of start the ball rolling, what would be some reasons why StarCraft 1 would be a great choice for AI research as opposed to StarCraft 2?
StarCraft 1 is a little bit more complex, and not in a way that gamers try to say it is. It's like complex, mechanically more complex, and present some kind of challenges that StarCraft 2 just isn't. It is partly because the engine itself is something you have to wrestle with. You have to figure out how to give the commands and counteract the stupid unit behavior in the first place. As for me, I wanted to get into AI, and this seemed to be a great place. I don't even know how I found out about this whole scene, but I started playing around with it. And it is also a great way to if you just want to start coding, then you can get right into it. And how is it different from SC2? There is something called the Brood War API. API stands for Application Programming Interface, and I swear I will not get more technical than that. It's basically a way to communicate with the game. This is something that was developed by talented hobbyists and academic researchers. Is there any other kind of researchers? I don't know, but academic researchers who wanted to research artificial intelligence. And this is fascinating because it's too complex of a game to model it perfectly. Like you might have known that chess has a very large but finite number of moves, or maybe chess is not even too complex, but some games have a certain number of moves, and you can just calculate every one of them. And in StarCraft, the space, the amount of moves that you can make, not just totally, but at any point, just infeasibly large for you to calculate it perfectly and always know the perfect answer. And I was kind of jumping around with that explanation, but you get the idea.
Yeah, sure.
It kind of sounds like, it sounds like StarCraft is the same though. Like it's still has, infinite possibilities or whatever. It's still hard to figure out. But I know, it's surprising when you said that, the Brood War is more complicated just because StarCraft 2 is newer and it has it's 3D as opposed to 2D, et cetera, et cetera. Like it just seems like a more complicated technically game. So I was surprised when you said that. That's all.
It's interesting. One of the key differences that may be easier to visualize is that StarCraft 2, the unit pathing is excellent already.
Yeah, it's
Does that
perfect.
make sense? Right?
Just about.
And the unit pathing on base StarCraft is not so good. Okay. So it's an aspect of StarCraft 2 that bots that play StarCraft 2 don't have to optimize as much, whereas a StarCraft bot has to do a layer of pathing on top. Right. Yeah. So not only are they doing all the normal things you do with StarCraft 2, but they're also running all their own internal pathing also to compensate, because the game engine doesn't give it that to you already. Right. Does that make sense? It's an extra level of complexity. And really the level of possible moves is more than there are like atoms in the universe. It's so crazily high. And that's what he's talking about. Sanko is talking about in terms of back solving and like that space of the game. Is could you record every possible move in StarCraft like you could with chess, and then just play that whole game backwards and recreate where you've gone, and then you know how to win every time, right?
Yeah.
It makes it not a game, right? And so that imperfect information element combined with a little bit more difficulty in the engine, I think leads to StarCraft Brooder being a little bit better of an environment. There are some aspects that are pretty important for AI dev, and one of those is StarCraft Brood War gets updated very little,
Yeah.
and StarCraft 2 gets updated quite a lot. So imagine that you had a check to spend $1 million in computational time to train an AI for the game. Every time StarCraft 2 updates and gets a new patch, all that money you spent is now pretty much down the drain because you have to spend it again. So keeping an AI engine current in StarCraft 2 over the long haul is extremely expensive in terms of money, and also manpower. StarCraft Brood War, because it changes less, is more appealing in some ways to AI developers because of that consistent environment that doesn't change as often.
Yeah, that's the thing that always struck me, because I know that that was a headache for the Google DeepMind guys, you know, because the game gets patched several times a year, and then everything would have to be retrained, and then eventually they just kind of chose a patch and sat on it.
Right, because
I mean, that's fine playing on an older patch when you're, you know, I got to try playing against it at BlizzCon and stuff, so it was like still, it was cool, but obviously, you know, that's kind of an annoying thing. You can't update it each time. It's so hard.
Right, you know, if it takes 2 weeks to train the AI, and then, you know, I don't know exactly what they spent, but some napkin math with AlphaStar is the money answer is a lot. Okay. We're talking hundreds of millions, right? And so, you know, if you have to redo some of that and keep a staff on hand to update it every time there's a new patch, you start looking at the economics of that and going, oh, wow, what have we done? You know, and I know that they're really concerned about that. You know, can they you know, if they wanted to, could they actually maintain AlphaStar over a period of years? And is that type of budget acceptable to them? Of course, AlphaStar and DeepMind has a budget that is hugely in excess of anyone on the Brood War side, really. You know, most of the people on the Brood War side are universities and individuals, and you know, they might have a couple $1,000s to throw at a project or something, but they don't have that kind of money. And it hasn't been invested on the Brood War side.
And with all that complexity being said, it's just complex enough that you can model a lot of things, how they work and how they interact with each other. What you can't really model well accurately and perfectly is the outcomes. So in a lot of things you can make complicated systems that work reasonably well. It's just no guarantee that they will actually perform well in the game.
And it's not known perfectly, you know, especially high ground. That's one of the other things that's a key difference between SC1 and SC2. SC2, you shoot and it lands. In SC1, you don't know. And it adds in a level of uncertainty just in that one item. It adds another little layer on top, right? That is not present in the SC2 system really at all. So that said, you know, we talk about this in terms of preferences, right? You know, if you spend a similar amount of money and have a similar amount of engineering, I think that, you know, if you could like solve SC2 as being much better than a pro level player, you know, within a few months, you could probably do something similar with Brood War. So we're not talking about massive differences here. We're talking about slight increases in difficulty that require more money and more time, more engineering and all of that,
right? The way that you guys are talking about it, I just wonder how much, like how serious and professional at the top end does StarCraft 1 AI research get? Because obviously we all know that, you know, Google did put in a bunch of money so far as AlphaStar and DeepMind on StarCraft 2. But like, are there real companies that are like really putting money into some of this research, or is it more hobby type stuff, like really smart people from companies that kind of form up and do it out of interest, or how does that work exactly?
A lot of the companies have come and gone, which is interesting. You know, so Facebook did a bot for a couple of years and was very successful.
Really?
Stick with it. And also Samsung did a bot, and that they worked on quite a bit the last 2 years, but they're not really working on it as much at the moment, it doesn't appear. And they brought in pro players and consultants and professors from South Korea. They had Best involved as a consultant.
That's sick.
Among other people, testing and helping build and things like this. But it seems to come in flows, right? They come in, they do a project, and then they realize what it's going to cost them and who they're competing with, and they go, oh crap. They end up $20 or $30 million into a StarCraft development project and go, uh-oh. We're only getting 5th and our PR team requires that we get 1st. And that can be problematic. That said, we're very thankful for the money and the time that Facebook especially put in, because when they were part of it, they created a lot of tools and systems to help with the further development, and they open sourced all of that. So our impression of them is really very positive. Of course, because other people have been able to build on the work that they have left behind as they moved on to other things. It's interesting talking about like the academic portion of it. The question is kind of out on the academics, but there is sort of a feeling among the professional people that I talk to that worked with like Facebook and Google and dealing with StarCraft is that yes, they can make the bot better than the human, but it would cost more money than they're willing to spend. And that is, and more engineering time and resources. They can project, and this is the tricky part. They can project using the graph, say our bot is this good. We know where the pro players are. We know what we need to be beyond that. It took us this much money to get to here, and it's going to cost this much to get to there. And do we really want to do that? And then do we want to maintain it over the long haul? And that gets to be rough. And you don't fault them for doing it for a while and then moving on to something else. The dollars add up.
Oh, for sure. That's kind of interesting. How strong have some of these bots really become? Like I did get to see again some people playing against them. For instance, nice username. I saw you playing some games.
I'm not the strongest
you lost a little
player.
bit.
I'm
You're
not
the
a very
strongest,
strong Brood War player.
You know how to play Brood War, though. I mean,
Zero had a more interesting, or at least like I know he had some clips too. And he's
quite interesting to see the contrast between you two, because you I think you won only a few matches.
I did win some games. I did.
Yeah, you did win some games, and you picked basically the bots at random.
Yes.
And Zero played the stronger bots on purpose.
And I want to throw this out there for people that don't know, because Zero's thought of as a tournament organizer. He's actually a very, very, very strong player in Brood War. Very strong.
Good player.
He is. He lost only once, and it was against the Samsung bot, actually.
Wow.
But he was off racing as Protoss, I think. But or he won all the other games. But you can look up the stream and see that he was actually doing his best and concentrating, and it was not an offhand move. It was not like he was just playing with my foot and everything. He actually performed. So the top bots are, I think, not pro level yet, but quite close.
I would guess, I played quite a few games against the bots. I'm kind of a low A player myself. And
which is quite strong for people that don't know. If you're A rank in Brood War, you are really good.
That's good, man.
Well, anyway, I'm not that good. I'm below the level of quite expert, but I'm better. I'm a better player than almost all the bots, but it's to the point where I know the internals of the bots too well, and I'm too easily able to exploit their internal systems that I'm not really a good test partner anymore. Because over the years I've just played so many. But if I was to give a rank to the top level bots, I would say that they're about a C+ in strength. The top.
Oh, okay.
So they're fairly.
So we're talking about
decent.
IC Cup CC+, or are we talking
on the current BW Brood War?
Oh, okay.
All right.
So they're decent. They're often more than a match for most amateur players. And when you start to get in kind of the semi-pro crowd, they take the bots apart pretty easily. That said, they improve every month, right?
It's also fun.
Very slightly.
You got to underline just how fun. I had a really good time playing against these bots. So like the whole reason I'm here at all is Shonko just kind of hit me up and said, "Hey man, I've made this, tool where you can go play versus a bunch of different bots."
I did a
And
thing.
yeah, and he's gonna put it out, so you can check it out too. And I really encourage people to really try this thing. Try playing versus bots. It's fun. When like he just said try it out, and I did, and I was like, dude, this is really really fucking sick. Like, I'm glad you hit me up. This is really cool. And yeah, I'm just excited. Like, it excites me. I'm curious to learn more about it. So did you go ahead? Sorry.
I just wanted to ask what it felt like, because like when I got to play against the Alpha Star, it was a very eerie feeling.
Yeah,
because there were like aspects of it that felt human and aspects that didn't, and I was like, oh, this, because I play so much StarCraft that it gives you a different.
Well, Alpha Star was wild. I only got to play 1 or 2 versus that because that was at BlizzCon this last year. Could go down it and play some Alpha Star games, and it was good. It beat me. I only got to play 1 game, and it Ling flooded me and I died. But yeah, it is eerie, like you said, because it feels so human, and that's kind of why I think it's fun. That's what I enjoy so much, is like you can play this thing and it feels like you're playing somebody, but it kind of takes out this for people who get ladder anxiety or whatever. You don't feel so bad about losing, maybe, or like it's just it's cool to see what it comes up with too, because it'll come up with stuff that a human would never try ever. So I don't know.
Some of them will worker rush you, and they're good at it.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah. And among other crazy stuff that you probably haven't seen in a lot of years, they'll try it. And some of the bots will actually talk to you too. They're pretty snarky, some of them.
Oh, you're right. Actually, they'll GG, and before they GG, they'll say something to you. I forget. One of them, like it almost felt like it BM me a little bit when I went.
Oh, yeah. Some of the authors
really
love that. Dealing with human players, they love that. And so you have bots that like announce that they're going to nuke you at this certain coordinates, and all sorts of just crazy stuff. And some of them tell the truth and then do it too. So it's really fun.
There is a bot
really cool.
that overrides the sound engine as well and plays meme sounds when he nukes you. And like killing a building is just going like this wah, wah, wah sound, and
wow,
absolute mad lad.
Something you were telling me after I played Sonko is that you wanted to make like a ladder, some kind of like ranked. You said it would like the name of the project is the something StarCraft Human and AI League, right? League is at the end of that.
Like that's exactly the name. It's StarCraft Human and AI League. Or
okay.
SCHNAIL,
so I'm just curious if what kind of plans you had in terms of making this a ladder or something where you could climb, like sort of progress through the bots, something like that.
This I've given this a lot of thought, and that's because these bots are mostly designed for AI versus AI play. In the tournaments, bots compete against each other, and the bot versus bot meta is quite different than a human versus human. And I strongly suspect that the human versus AI meta will be quite different as well. There is a counterplay, and there are some strategies that are feasible for bots. They have infinite micro. If you've written a micro for one unit, then you can just do it for all the units. And in some replays, we see that with vultures going around, like 10 vultures going around the map and going vulture things. And I think we should just, before we going further, let's watch a clip from Zero's stream. Cobra, can we do that?
Yes, we can. If our hosts and guests want to queue it up, I'll give you a countdown.
Can we get the link in the Zoom chat, maybe?
Just a second.
The guest preparation. Yep. Everybody ready?
Nice.
Where is it? Oh, guest preparation. Hold on.
I posted in the Zoom chat as well.
There we go. Okay. Ready.
3, 2, 1.
What the fuck?
There go the vultures.
Oh, nice.
So this is Zero playing the bot, right?
Yeah. Those are bot
that's
vultures.
I mean, their micro looked pretty good there.
What the fuck?
Ran right past that sunk and they knew what to do.
Oh,
That's for
nicely
sure.
done,
Yeah.
Mr. Samsung.
And that's actually that's like not a completely uncommon thing. It's like a little bit of a risky move, but definitely like if you can get vultures into a Zerg main early on, you can sometimes kill them with that. So just throwing that out there.
So back to the ranking of bots, it's not as simple and that as throwing all the bots and humans to the ladder and giving them, for example, an ELO or MMR rating. Because first of all, if you play humans versus bots, then these scores have to compare to each other. And where do you get the rankings of the humans?
Humans lie.
Humans lie.
Yeah.
Lie, cheat, and deceive.
You couldn't ask them what their rank is. They were not going to give you an honest answer.
Right.
There will be a lot of pros then. And in that case, the only thing you can do is just give everyone the same rating. Like starting out, as you do on the ladder, you get 1500 ELO or whatever is the seeding value. But the problem with that is bots can be exploited, and if you defeated certain bots, it's not true for all bots, but many bots can employ a lot of tactics, but the tactics they can employ are the finite number. So they know, for example, 50 build orders, and they can execute them well. But you find the 51st build order that he didn't do, and the counter, or you find a counter build that he has no answer for, or it has no answer for, and now you can beat that bot consistently. And beating the bot consistently ranks you up on the ladder, and you can just boost your ELO rating that way, and that skews the score. So my plan is still have some kind of ELO rating, but if you do a ranked play, you only can play a random bot, because that a little bit balances it out. And also, I will just not tell the humans what their ELO ranking is, because if you don't see your score on the screen, there is less incentive to cheat. If there is a number displayed, then I will try to get that number higher if I have to. We call that seal clubbing, when you just go against the weaker bots. And
no, that makes really good sense, because I think not knowing what you're playing against is actually a very important aspect. Like maybe it's more accurate the first time a human and a bot play. Like if I'm playing a bot, the first game, I'd feel much less confident in the second game, even if it beat me the first game, because it would be like, oh, okay, now I have some sort of idea. And in fact, we saw that with Alpha Star as well, to just mention again, because this is the thing a lot of people have seen, is when people knew they were playing Alpha Star, they would just like cannon rush it and it would just die. And then, but if they didn't know, it would win a lot of the time. And it was like, oh, look at that. Yeah, it's very, very different knowing what you're going against and not knowing.
Yeah. It's huge. It's such a big deal on ladder and in any game, like any 1v1 StarCraft game.
Maybe just hiding the bot name would. I don't think that
would help for sure.
Eliminate, but yeah, it would help. It would definitely help.
When you play them a lot, I don't even have to look. I can see by how they move because I played thousands of games, right? But that takes time for people to get a feel for them. And one of the other difficulties that's part of this is that bots require, in order for them to write to they have like a learning file that they use to reference for a later game against you.
Oh, okay.
You have to kill them completely, which is problematic, because only about half the bots have early exit functions, where if they think that they're losing, they'll actually leave and be nice to the human. The other ones don't.
You have to kill
and so they'll make you kill them completely, which a human can struggle to find that enjoyable, to have to completely go through and kill off all the buildings every time. But it's actually really important for the bot to get feedback that it actually died, because it only writes to that on exit. So otherwise, if you quit out, even though the bot thinks it won, and so it'll try the strategy that you just quit out because you thought you were beating it against you the next game, which is really frustrating, right? So it's really important when people do play the bots, especially on this ladder, that you understand that you really should kill them off completely.
So
be brutal, commit murder.
So are these bots like learning over time then?
Some of them do. So I would say that about half the ladder doesn't really learn much, and then half the ladder are different levels of learning. So some bots open like a single build order, but then they adjust a bunch of stuff. So if you imagine a Terran bot, the things that might be adjustable might be like its eBay and its first turret timing, what time it gets scanned, how many factories it reacts to you with, what unit composition it makes. But it always starts from like a single opener, and it might just adjust those factors as like a slider as it plays you more. Others are much more complicated, right? But that's like the simplest example. But like the really complicated ones have, 20, 40, 50 openers with multiple reactions per opener, with different magic numbers that they dump. Some of them predictively build units to counter stuff that you made the last game you played against them ahead of time, right? So
that's what my human opponents do.
So the especially when you talk about like the top 5 or top 10 of the AI bots, as a human, the bot will get better against you the more games you play against it. And so I highly recommend not just playing one, trying to play several against the same one and kill it off completely, because those next rounds you'll find more and more interesting as it tries to adapt to what you're doing, and it tries different strategies and stuff.
And actually, this is really problematic because it works the other way too. Like if you know that how to beat a bot, or even if you don't know how to beat a bot, you can just enter the game, surrender, and do that a lot of times, and boost the bot's rating. Then someone else comes and beats that bot. So it's kind of smurfing by proxy. So it's really problematic. So I didn't have a very good answer for this, but anonymizing and randomizing what bot you play against could certainly help.
We keep talking about like how there's a bunch of different bots. Wait, how many do you think there are? There has to be like some number.
There's about 70 to 90. You don't see them all the time because they don't play in like every tournament sometimes. So that gives you kind of a range of the total of them. But of course, half of that list is D double minus, not very good.
Right.
It's really the top half that are a lot more interesting.
That's a lot, though. That's a lot more than I kind of would have expected.
And only some of them are being allowed onto SCHNAIL, onto the new ladder system. There's some that are really don't deserve to even make that cut because they don't have enough progress. So there's a little bit of curating going on already, but SCHNAIL has a really wide gambit from like D double minus all the way to like C plus kind of.
Yeah. What surprised me, and I thought this was really cool, is when I went to stream these games I played versus the bots, which I just did off the cuff, completely random. I didn't promote it or anything. I didn't even post anything about it. But just because I think Sonko posted about it, I'm not a streamer. I never stream. And if you just randomly turn a stream on and you don't have a stream, you're gonna get 0 viewers. But when I did this, there were like 30-ish people around. And I was like, wow, there's a real community here. There's a whole group of people who are into this stuff, and I really had no idea. And I'm like a really big StarCraft fan. I check, I'm always checking StarCraft shit every single day, and it's really impressive just how many of these AI developers there are, how many bots there are, and how many people showed up to watch some games. It's pretty cool. I thought that's all.
And often the authors will come watch you play their bot.
Yeah,
pretty regularly. They love it. Love it. And so you get to be part of that interaction, right? So if you play a bot and you post like in our Discord, I'm playing such and such a bot, if the author's on, oftentimes they'll tune in and say, all right, what do you think of it? Give me feedback. What do you want fixed? What do you want changed? What could be better? Right. So they're very interested in this. And really the player value in giving information back to the AI people is really important. You know, a lot of the bot authors are academics and researchers and scientists and stuff like this. A lot of them, even though their bot might be pretty good, they don't know anything about StarCraft. Nothing. Quite a few of them, even the ones that are pretty good.
That's really interesting, actually. If I could ask a follow-up question to that, how are these bots actually learning? Like, because I know that there's a lot of ways that you could train a bot. Like, I guess you could program in build orders and tell it what to do. It could play itself. I think that's a lot of what DeepMind was doing. It can watch replays of human players. It can play other bots. Like, how do these bots actually figure out how to play the game? Because there's, I mean, if they're hitting that high of a level, I mean, it almost seemed to me like there must be people who know how to play StarCraft programming these or something. But
some of them do. You know, of them, maybe like 70 to 90, maybe 10 of them have played to like D level, and maybe only like 3 have played to like C or B. And so there's not a lot of experience there. The bots, it's something to think about with the bots is their design. It's what we call, the simplest bots are what we call the if statement bots. If this happens, do that, and everything is hard coded. It's just a giant program that says if this happens, do that. And there's fancier ways of doing that, but it's just basically a giant file.
Are those ones like weak ones?
Yes, though there are some that are really advanced.
Not necessarily.
But actually one of the most advanced bots is like that, but it just has like 300 reactions in it. This is an example of the Samsung bot, which is basically a giant if bot, which it only does one opener, and it's one of the top 5 bots. But it has about 300 different custom handwritten reactions for every conceivable thing that you could cheese Terran with. It's crazy.
What race is the Samsung bot?
Terran. And it's a huge long reaction tree. What to do with DT drops, and you know, if you can imagine it, proxies. It's this huge long file, and it's fascinating to read. And
I would love to see that. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing to look at the internals. And it also has that magical number tuning we were talking about, so it adjusts the eBay time. But they're just sliders in a range, if that makes sense. So it's basically, if this happens, do that, and do it within this range, right? So it does adjust itself slightly, but not that much. So that's the bot from Samsung. And you know, they had a team of 12 people and a couple of years, and it won an internal Samsung competition, and huge development project, right? But you can play it on the ladder. It's part of the SCHNAIL. And yeah, it's fascinating.
And it's important to note that you hear all these buzzwords, especially deep learning, but machine learning, deep learning, reinforcement learning, all of this stuff. These are good tools, but they are just that, tools. They are not magic bullets. The fact that a bot has learning does not mean that it will be a good bot. Learning is basically as good as your data is, in a sense that you need to have enough data, and you need to have a quality data. For example, no matter how many data I collect on which color of race cars won races, I won't get. I will get that. Okay, yellow cars win the most Formula One matches. So if I paint my Honda Civic yellow, then I will win. No, of course not. So you have to know what you're doing. And machine learning is basically, in traditional programming, you code the how. You have your inputs, you code the how, and you don't know the result. In machine learning, it's a little bit inverted. You know what you want to do, you know the result, you have the data, but you don't know the how. And the machine learning is figuring out the how, basically figuring out the algorithms that will lead you to the desired outcome. And that does not mean that these algorithms, even if you get the desired result, they will be the best way to reach that.
It's also more complicated than it seems on the surface. Classifying bots as a machine learning bot is or not is kind of odd in our world. because most people think of a bot as like a single program. Most of the bots really don't work like that. They have a scouting program, a mining program, a building placement program, a combat simulator, right? And they have this list of like 20 different programs, right? And so like just within the mining program, only the mining program, you might have version like 1 through 5 that were hard coded as if statements. And then you might say, well, let's use machine learning and train a mining system. And so you might have one system in a bot of 20 different systems that's using machine learning, for example, right? And so people think of like machine learning as, well, let's train the whole bot. And that's because of the size and the complexity of the game, at least within the brood war side. You know, if you have Google's type of money, you can try and train like the whole game, but we don't have the resources to do that. And so you're using machine learning for individual systems. And so you'll have a really complex bot, and maybe 2 or 3 of the systems have machine learning stuff in them, and the rest of it is hard coded, for example. And so it's better to think of bots as a collection of systems than as this big ball, right? So it's easier to think about them that way.
That's really interesting, actually. It's not what I would have thought, on the surface.
Yeah. And sometimes bot authors do comparisons, right? So we'll write mining system 1 and mining system 2 and machine learning system, and then run a big test of 10,000 games to figure out which one of these 3 we're going to use, right?
It's also interesting that you said one of the top bots, the Samsung bot, was sort of leaned more towards hard coded or a lot of if then or whatever. What do you think was the best performing not if then bot? Like what was the most successful machine learning bot or whatever?
Probably Facebook's bot Cherry Pie was, right? Because they had the computational power to do training of vast sections of the bot. And
so they built the most complicated and the most successful bot, you think Facebook did?
Though their bot kind of had its peak about 2 to 3 years ago, and as they've sort of moved out of the field and gone to other things, and they left all of their technology behind as open source, which is really beneficial to all of us, right? And so we're using those as building blocks, and there's other bots coming out of that project as like their children. So it's kind of a weird thing to think of, but a lot of the bots in the brood war AI world are like a 10 generation children's of each other. As academic projects are like this, where someone made a bot 10 years ago at a university, and then different people forked it, right, and made versions of it, which then had more children, which then had more children, and 10 generations later of modifications, you see the version of it that's on the ladder. So actually, when you look at the list of ladder bots, there's 10. You might see a group of 10 bots that are sort of named similar sometimes, and sometimes they're all from the same family of different generations as they were like bred over a decade, right? And so it's really interesting.
It reminds me of the AlphaStar quote where he was saying, played 200 million years of StarCraft or whatever number. Makes me wonder, what numbers you could come up with some of these bots that the people have written for the brood war.
Yeah,
it's probably
the number
big.
Of games are insane.
It's probably a big number. Yeah.
In bot world, why you really don't see many bot AI streams is because we play this game so fast they're unwatchable. We run them as fast as the game can process them. So we run what's called speed 0, which is as fast as brood war will draw the game. So
basically,
the average game
it doesn't output anything to the screen, right? It just runs the game, and there's no video or anything. It just runs the game like a simulation.
Right, and the game only lasts 30 to 40 seconds. It's maybe like 30 to 40 seconds for like a 20-minute game. But if you were to watch it, all you would see is a blur, so it's not useful information. So the streams that we do are more for like the casual stuff and things that people would look at. But if you actually were watching the machines that actually crunch the millions of bot games that we play, it's just all a blur. There's no information that's really useful there to a viewer. It's all exported into like Excel, and then you use the data for other stuff.
And even the best bots, it's a challenge to find entertaining games because sometimes it's just curb stomping the other bot because it is just rushing it because the bot knows that, hey, that other bot is not equipped to deal with a Zerling rush, so I will Zerling rush it, and that's not very entertaining. In the meantime, I sent a clip to Cobra about one of the top bots, or maybe it is now on the top of the ladder. It's called Crazy O, and it's playing against another high-ranking bot, just as to demonstrate the army movement. And both of these bots have some learning and therefore emergent behavior.
What is some of the overlay that's on here? Like some of the text. Well, does it mean anything special? I don't know what it means.
Me neither, actually. This is probably just debug information for the author.
Yeah.
So it's
all right.
You won't see a lot of this.
Clip then, or?
You won't see a lot of this debug
yeah.
on your side, but bots often display a ton of information if you watch the game from their view.
Good.
All right. Should we do a countdown for this clip, Cobra?
Yep.
I'm ready.
3, 2, 1.
So is this the vision?
It's a very weird unit movement. Like the vultures are moving really well, killing those SCVs, but the rest of the army, and when I see it move, I'm like, huh.
Yeah.
This is the bot's vision,
stuff.
Right?
Or
like, yeah, like what? I'm not sure what I'm seeing. Besides, like you said, the army movement from purple, he's going in and killing a little of the other base. But is it just someone observing? Is this from one of the tournaments?
Oh, that must be the cam of it moving around, right? Like that's
that's what it looks like.
It is from the SCHNAIL online stream. There is the 24/7 stream, and some people watch it and clip those things if there is an interesting segment. So this is just the camera movement is coded into the stream as well.
Okay. Yeah, we have an auto.
So it's like an observer. Okay.
Yeah.
I was curious if this is like what the bot sees sort of thing, but it's just an observer.
It'd be fun.
No, it's an observer.
I don't know that we brought an example with us of that, but it would be fun to look at some point. I can show you some stuff later.
Example of what? What do you mean?
Bot view and what they see as far as their vision and what they're tracking and stuff like that. Map analysis.
How do these bots in general decide what they value to do at a time? I don't even know if I'm asking this question correctly, but in the Google Docs, Sanko, that you made, that we'll make it available for everyone to check out, that has like tons about these bots and like clips and things. I mean, there's so many clips in here that I watched that I'm having a hard time finding the correct clip again, but I saw one where it was like a Terran versus Terran, and there was some vulture movement going on that I was like, this is very human-like. The way it's like, it runs up, it sees the turrets and tanks, and it turns the vultures around, and it's like running around getting some SCVs. And how does that occur in the bots? I don't even know what to call it here. I'm so ignorant on this. I'm like, the bot's brain, how does it know?
You stepped on a really interesting thing, actually, without probably knowing it.
Yes, yeah. So definitely without knowing it, I promise.
One of the great debates in bot world is if an army of units has a leader or if it's a collection of individuals. This is one of the great debates that is still unsettled. Basically, if you think of an army as a group of individuals, it's every unit is deciding all the time where it should be and acts independently of all the other ones, right? And any movement you see as a whole is purely organic for the situation because it recognizes that it needs to be near its friends, right? To be more successful. The other route is we're going to top down tell the army where to go and where to move, right? Right. That's sort of the other approach as a group and as a team. And that's an unsettled debate as to what's the best solution. And it's really very interesting.
That's so you see crazy.
Yeah.
And
so
results are inconclusive because you can't really correlate the design philosophies to the bot rankings.
Right. And so some bots that are really good, all the units are individuals, and some of them, they all work as a team. And you'll see that when...
Yeah, go ahead.
And so you'll see this when you play the bots. Some bots are very cooperative, and some of the bots almost treat their units like, oh, you're over there, decide what you're going to do. So it's really, and there's not really a set way, like Sunko said, there's not a set way across the field as to which way is actually better.
That like explodes my brain what you're saying right now, because the way that I look at that is, obviously as humans when we play, the units are like groups. I'm not thinking of each vulture individually, I move it as a group. Whereas what you're suggesting is that it would be more like a flock of birds or something, where it's like, it's kind of a natural movement, but they all just go the same way and fly with each other or whatever.
Yeah. Have you ever played Team Melee and played Zerg and given your guys like 3 different groups of Mutalisks to micro at the same time?
Yeah,
that's what we're talking about here conceptually, right?
Yeah.
It's each group and each unit is its own actually decision-making like body, which is crazy.
Wow.
And also bots don't operate with unit groups. That's just a human thing. Bots issue comments one by one, so you can see like 50 Mutalisk clouds.
Yeah.
That's
Sometimes,
the thing.
But yeah, so bots will stack them as deep as you want. So there is a bot on Ladder that has really good Mutalisk micro. Beware.
What's that one
All
called?
I gotta say, it's called Kilobot or Marian Devaneka. It's a pretty old bot, but it has the best muta micro of any of the bots on Ladder. I really struggle against it playing Terran.
Really?
So
okay.
Yeah,
fun.
because
the
posted
mutas get out of control really fast. As you can imagine, a bot that can it stacks like a human stacks.
Oh,
and so you can imagine that once the stack hits about 20 or 30 mutas, you're in a lot of trouble because it one hit kills everything that it flies through.
It's a lot of mutas.
That's crazy. Radiate's going to be good against that.
Yeah, I want to see Artosis play that one.
Actually, not necessary, because the bot can select the irradiated Mutalisk in a frame.
Yeah, pulls it out perfectly
every
time.
Pull it out, and
that's crazy.
even pull towards
Valkyries then. Valkyries.
Yeah. You'll find that some tactics that work versus humans like Irradiate versus some bots don't work that well. So Storm is an interesting example in bot world. Some bots have really good anti-air of effect micro. And so Storm is not as effective versus the high-level bots as it would be versus a human. So you'll see playing versus the bots, you'll see a lot more like Reaver plays than Storm plays.
Oh, that's so interesting. Yeah.
It's a little
just
bit different.
pull away.
Yes. Yeah. So there's a little bit of a different meta there, and you'll find that as you play them, you'll have to compensate kind of slightly, or they'll exploit their micro abilities to kind of take you apart if you kind of fall into their traps and those things.
When I was reading through this document again that you made, I can't quote it exactly, but it said somewhere that there's like different strategy sets for some bots where it's like bot versus human. Because
yes, the dead bot. Yes, dead bot was most likely Purple Wave. This is a bot made by Dengant, who is actually a AI researcher at Facebook. So it's a quite advanced one, and it has a flag that sets versus human mode on. Other bots have similar behavior as well, but a very good example, and unfortunately I didn't prepare a clip of this, but against Zero, when he played, Purple Wave tried to employ the stove against him.
The stove, I love it. It's such a bad strat. I love it.
Yeah. So some of the bots have stuff for versus humans that's not just designed to be competitive, but also designed to be fun. So as part of the SCHNAIL list, there's actually a bot that goes pure mass nukes. So you will enjoy that. Yeah. But it'll take the whole map and just nuke you repeatedly, right? So you'll find that pretty fun. I think that people will enjoy that. You get quadra nuked at the same time.
In the meantime, I'm a little bit silent because I'm frantically searching for the clips, and I'm still I found a very good Muta micro clip. Can we?
Oh, nice.
Just play that now.
So is that? Oh, that's the one that you just posted. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Count us down, Cobra.
Okay. Give me 1 second. Loading it up. And here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Oh my god.
What am I looking at?
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
What is the red dot? Do you know?
That's probably a center that the units are converging towards, but I'm not entirely sure. But
Okay.
this is a bot called Steamhammer, and the author of this bot runs a blog as well. It's I will put it somewhere, the address of that blog, and documents the blog itself. And the blog, the bot is open source. What that means that you can just take the source code, look at it, digest it, and you can even develop your own bot based on that source. You can extend that bot, add extra functionality. And there are some bots, there are quite a lot of bots that we call the Steamhammer family of bots that Antigua just said. They are basically the descendants of Steamhammer.
Yeah, and actually my bot is a descendant of Steamhammer that I use. It's Steamhammer with, you know, a 1 or 2% tiny improvements and modifications, right? And a lot of that is, you know, because you're building upon this history and the tools that other people have made. And really, it only takes a few hours to get into StarCraft AI development, and it's a really good environment to learn programming and coding, and highly recommend it in that aspect. And the community is really helpful, and we have great tools and documentation and all that. So.
How hard is it? Like, if you know, you said there's some simpler bots. If I wanted to make the simplest one, and I'm an AI student or whatever, you know, like how many steps are there? Is it really complicated to make a really easy bot that just mines money in 2 racks of somebody?
If you've taken like one programming course in your whole life, we could probably get you with something simple that functions in 2 or 3 hours. So it's really not that bad.
Actually, how many people does it normally take to make one of these bots, though? Because they have such complex looking behaviors.
That's a fun question. So actually, the best kind of bot on the ladder right now is called Crazio, and it's made by one guy.
Oh, really?
And, yes.
Is this like a full-time job for him, or
no?
Like...
No. But he's been doing it for like 8 years.
He's very competitive.
Very competitive guy and very hardcore. But so the jury's, you know, you see everything from teams the size of companies and organizations of, you know, 50 people working on something to the one guy plan. Right. And so really a single person has been shown to be able to be very competitive. Of course, he sort of has a schedule where, you know, he sits down for an hour or 2 every day and pushes an update like every day, 365 days a year. So he's hardcore, right? I mean, we're not talking somebody that does this completely casually.
I gotta for years. I gotta ask about that guy. Crazio bot, you said is the name of it?
We call him Crazio.
Okay. So the Crazio bot, I remember because you told me about this a little bit when I was chatting with you a few months ago. When like Samsung and Facebook and all them were making bots, was he beating them with that? Because you mentioned that like Samsung got like 5th or something like that.
Yes and no.
Yeah. Crazio is an interesting guy. He only plays if he knows he will win in tournaments. He's one of these fellows.
That's a very Brood War player thing to do.
It is. And so if Crazio, his history has been is if he's not number 1 on the ladder and leading everybody already and a tournament comes up, he generally says, you know, if I'm not in first and I'm not going to win anyway, I think I'll skip this one. Right. And so during that period when Cherry Pie and Samsung were playing really well, he skipped most of those. So the answer is
maybe, kind of, somewhat.
I mean, since then he's been able to hold on to his first place spot, and his bot is now better than theirs. But at the time, that was more up in the air, right?
Yeah, yeah. Because I was just thinking how cool that would feel to be like, yeah, no, I'm better than Samsung at this.
Yeah, but it's a post learning thing. So
yeah. Okay, I gotta. Yeah, go ahead.
Actually, the author called Krasimir Krastev was an Undermine guest as well. One episode, which is funny because he is not really a public-facing individual, so to speak.
He's a very private person, so getting him to talk publicly is very rare.
And there is nothing wrong with that. But he I think it was episode 10 or 11. It was quite a good episode, by the way.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking it's very interesting. I have to bring this up just for my own. No one's gonna know what the hell I'm talking about. Let me explain it real quick. So, and this is some chemtrail level garbage that I'm about to bring up. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So there was a player way back. I'm talking like he retired in 2002 or so, named Blackman, and he was a Polish player. We're all pretty sure that he was the best foreigner at the time, even though there were some foreigners that were playing in Korea professionally and stuff. But Blackman, so no one knew who he practiced with. No one knew how he got so good. He only showed up to a few tournaments and like played at basically the very close to the top Korean level, which was, it's just absurd. It's never really happened and stuff other than a couple times very early in the history. Anyways, there was a rumor going around that Blackman back in like 2002 programmed an AI to nail boxers' build orders to prepare for Boxer because no one could do it. And that's how that was the rumor going around, is that Blackman made AIs for himself to play against because the other European players couldn't even replicate anything that Boxer was doing. And he wanted to prepare to play in World Cyber Games against him.
At that time, the
Right?
ability of the bots was much more limited than it is today.
You could have those technically, though, right? Like that's what I was gonna ask.
Unlikely.
Was it around in 2002?
Unlikely
Barely.
for two reasons. I think,
But
I
it
don't think-
was. It's possible.
Yeah, the bots were playing like PvP only locked, no expansion back then.
Oh, wow.
okay.
Okay.
So maybe that gives you some perspective.
Yeah, it does.
So that said, it is fairly easy to export a professional build order and have the bot copy it at
Really?
the current
Okay.
time.
Why wouldn't it be really sick though? Because of
So it
everything
doesn't,
after
because
that?
it doesn't know what to do with the units that it has.
Okay.
So there's, you can have it build all the units, but then what does it do with them? And the ability to actually use those units effectively is really kind of an invention of the last 3 to 5 years. Prior to that, they just sort of walked across the map in a big line. Congo line. We're familiar with the Congo line.
Yeah.
And you know, the peak of technology in like 2004, 2005 was literally drawing an imaginary line between your base and the enemy base and attacking and retreating on that line, right? So that's really
So
well,
he
that-
probably
so
wasn't
what year is this? I'm
writing
thinking like
it.
20.
It
I'm
was
thinking
like
2012, like
Yeah.
not 2002. This is so
No.
the first bots would have been like 2010, 2009 for the very first developments. So anything prior to that didn't really exist. There wasn't an API to communicate with the game prior to that. But
That's
2000
one reason. But even if there was one, where did he get the time? I mean, programming good that is as good as you is a full-time job, and on top of that, you have to be a pro gamer. So for that
Yeah.
reason alone, he couldn't have done it, and or he couldn't have done it alone.
Well, he was just the biggest enigma we ever had. He was so non-public about everything, and just so many weird, crazy rumors like that. So I
Yeah.
wanted to bring that up just for anyone old enough to remember that crap.
Nowadays, actually queuing up a replica of a pro player as a practice partner is not completely out of the question with today's tech. There have been several discussions that have been had about, you know, would a pro pick up a bot as a partner to use as a training partner that they then pay the developer or the engineer, you know, a salary where they keep updating it to execute specific build orders against them repeatedly, so they don't have to practice against anyone and leak information, right? And so things like that are more possible. Like if you want a bot that'll 4-pool you as many times as you want in several different ways, we can do that today. If you want something that'll 8-racks you, we can do that, or BBS or proxy.
That's sick, actually.
As much as you want.
That would be very useful.
Right.
Yeah.
So that exists today. So if you want to know exactly what time you need to put the bunker down to counter, you know, this type of rush, you know, you can practice that as many times as you want, and the bot will just keep doing it. And so simplistic sort of rush style testing against yourself is possible today. And slightly more complex things are too, but you know, that increases, you know, money, time, resources, engineering dollars, all that gets more expensive.
Mm.
But there is some possibility that, can you imagine if AlphaStar was for hire as a practice partner, right?
Yeah.
That's sort of the conceptual concept that we're thinking about here.
Actually, that's one of the main goals of the SCHNAIL project is for you to get a consistent practice partner. Because when practicing, there are two major things. The first that no matter who you're playing against, your enemy won't be consistent. Like a human can make mistakes, and a bot can execute that 9-pool rush strategy every time. And the second thing is you don't have to deal with humans, because you don't have to go on the ladder and some toxic 12-year-old verbally abusing you. So and don't underestimate how good that feels to skip that part of the game. So so practice partners and consistent challenge, which can be a thing for casual gamers as well. So maybe you beat the stock AI, but you don't feel good enough to play against pros. Yeah, this is a chance for you to practice.
I got to say, I love the idea of having bots that would just cheese you to practice, because that's one of the things that is almost a barrier to entry for a lot of people. Like, if someone puts a proxy gate in the middle of the map, it's a coin flip, man. I lose a lot of games to that, and I'm a pretty good player. So it's definitely something that you need a lot of
Not only
practice.
that, it kind of feels like when you lose to like some cheese that some guy did, it feels like, dude, anyone could have done that. So, like, this is not special. Some robot could have done this, or some idiot, idiot could have done
quite
this.
Literally.
When you lose to something like that. So yeah. I think the practice partner idea is like one of the most exciting things about it.
A good example of this, even beyond sort of simplistic openers, several of the top bots run extremely optimized DT rushes with timings, extremely, like frame perfect to the within like a second or two of arrival time of DTs, several of them, and so they can do that repeatedly as many times as you want.
Right? That reminds me, aren't there some quirks when you play against these bots, in the sense that, like, I remember when I played, someone told me in chat, cloaked units don't really work, or like cloaked units do really work, like really way too well. I kind of, what is there anything like that, or do you want to elaborate more on that?
Sure. So one of the things that's a little odd with playing bots is that that shimmer that you can see with an observer or a DT, the bot can see that,
and it'll always see it every time.
It'll always see it every time perfectly when it comes into vision.
Yeah.
So if you try and rush a bot with DTs, they're often very reactive to it, extraordinarily quickly. So using cloaked units against a bot, you can still do, and very effectively, of course, if you catch them without turrets and without scan. I mean, it doesn't matter if they can see them; they're still dying, right? Well, they can't actually see them to hit them, right? But they know that
if you can't fight back,
right? And so that's one thing to be aware of. There's not really a good compromise to that, because if you take away that aspect of it in the shimmer, then they can't really see them at all, even if they have detection, even if they were to have detection for something that was cloaked. So it's sort of a technical limitation. But
besides the cloak thing, is there anything else?
Some of them bots, because of things that have been discovered in mining optimization, probably mine at a 15 to 20% higher income rate than any human could.
What? Wait, what?
Yeah, it's like better? I wanted to present with a clickbaity headline. But if I told you there is a way for you to mine 10% more minerals, and yes, there is. You just
are we talking about like mineral boosting, or? Because there are some techniques that pros attempt to use on some mineral patches and things. Like, I know certain places I can fix my mining to make it a little bit better, but what do you guys mean by that?
So they're very aware of, the bots are very aware of that, because obviously we chart income, and income is a really high probability of how many units you can make, right? More units, more better, right? Yeah. So they do tricks with, actually they like click past the minerals to not lose the deceleration.
Oh, they
and
do
stuff,
that?
and then-
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
that for
yeah.
everywhere.
Right. So they do some
Oh.
tricks like that.
That's kind of sick.
That said, some of the top box have modes where they can be put into a mode where they don't do that. Where, of course, first an AI versus AI play doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
That said, the bots are not at the level where we've really started cracking down and say, well, maybe you should disable this and this. You know, they're not really there yet. But as the bots get better and better and better versus humans, kind of like what happened with AlphaStar, where they said, well, we'll just let the bot let it look at this one screen. Down the road, you know, a couple of years from now, when the bots are really getting close to human layer, we'll start going, all right, well, this thing that you're abusing kind of on the edge, well, maybe you shouldn't be allowed to do that. And we'll turn that off and click them down a few notches. But right now, you'll see things like that where bots have kind of inhuman income. Also, the bots, obviously, their ability to make workers is kind of nasty. So people who think that they're doing really well versus a bot, all of a sudden you miss a little bit of a macro cycle and you get overrun, right? And so their ability to multitask is insane, especially the better ones. You know, some of these Protoss bots, the high level ones, they max in under 11 versus Terran. So, and humans max maybe at like 11:30 to 12 minutes if they're really trying. And these bots will do it every time that early. So,
oh boy, do I have a clip for you. This is about a bot called Locutus, and it is kind of famous for its sick goon micro.
I checked this one out. Let's look at it.
Okay.
Count us down, Cobra.
This one's not a Twitch clip, so it's going to take me an extra 10 seconds here. 1 minute.
Okay. So yeah, there was something dubbed the Fortuitous fiasco when a lot of bots forked. That means that taken the source code and modified it ever so slightly of Locutus and put it on the ladder and got quite good results with it. It has been named by the Fortuitous fiasco by the media. That means me, and I like that name. So this is the historical event. Now it's referred to, and after that we changed the license, or the authors changed the licensing, so you can't really do that anymore. So it's always a balance. How much do you allow to copy or build upon? Okay, Cobra, ready?
Yeah.
Just a minute.
All right.
Is sound important on this one?
Sound? No, not really.
Okay. 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, I've definitely played games that look just like this on Talcross.
Yeah, it's some good micro. Though it looks like it's tanking one of the shots. Yeah, it's like really intentionally.
And it's move up close to the tank.
Yeah, getting up close to the tank, but then also the micro against the SCVs specifically was very good. The way that it was moving them back a little bit, because a lot of times in that situation, SCVs actually are like bees and just surround everything and kill it.
Isn't it a concern for some of you guys or any of the developers? Like, you guys probably watched the Alpha Star exhibition matches, and you probably saw the ridiculous Stalker micro in that one game that everyone got upset about, rightly so. Don't you get worried? Because it sounds like there's no APM cap or like, you know, there's no limit on these bots.
There could be one.
Doesn't it? Is it something you guys consider, or is it not? You know,
it is. So
it's a debate.
It's a debate and an interesting one. So something important to keep in mind is, let's talk about like chess for an example. It's not a question today that a chess can beat a human, right? A chess computer can beat a human anymore. It is a question how much computer resources you spend to beat the human. Okay, so it's important to understand in the StarCraft versus human bot debate that right now the question is, can the bots beat the humans? And after that happens, the question becomes how much CPU resources did you spend? That becomes the contest. Does that make
Mhm.
sense? So it's
Yeah.
a contest that doesn't end, and that chess portion is still ongoing because it's the progression of the algorithms in the back end, because not only are we trying to make AI systems better, but we're trying to make them more efficient. So
Yeah, it's
it's
like
good to think about it as a parallel battle that are happening at the
Mm.
same time. So even after the bots get to that point, all that's going to happen is that the bot authors are going to kind of get together and start cutting down the bot resources to make them more and more efficient with less computing resources versus the humans, and still try and maintain that similar high skill level.
Yeah, no, I think that that's a good way to do it too, because I know that a lot of the StarCraft community after that January show of DeepMind was like, oh, it's APM is too high, it's just out microing them. And I'm just like, it's just so cool that this happened, no matter what, no matter how
Oh,
it did
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
It's so
Oh, yeah.
complex. So I would much rather people just get bots that can beat me at Brood War, and then we can talk about things like APM. You know,
Yeah,
just like
totally.
let's get that
Yeah,
first milestone done. Like that in and of itself is so impressive because there's so many aspects of the game.
exactly my thoughts. That let's get to the point when AI can consistently beat any human every time, because even not even Alpha Star is at that point.
Yeah.
And I think we will get there. We will get there because research is ongoing, and then I view this human versus AI battle as a good analogy would be when it was the 15 or 1800s, and there was these big steam locomotives, and people were racing them on horse.
Yeah.
And yeah, definitely, there were some very fast horses, but eventually the trains won every time. And nowadays you don't really race it. And after that point, the people didn't. It's like after a while, playing against the bot will be inviting a forklift to a weightlifting championship. So it wouldn't be a challenge. But then again, as Antigua said with chess, it's not. We have solved the problem. We solved the problem of beating humans, or how they will take this out of context. So we solved the problem how to beat a human in StarCraft. Let's say we are at that point. That does not mean we cannot improve. It's like we solved the problem of flying 100 years ago, but we still come up with better airplanes.
Right.
It's
And a lot of this is about the democratization of AI, actually, is where this comes up, is that there's an argument to be had that unless you can make an AI system that can run on the average person's computer, have you really progressed society around like large companies owning and controlling it, right? And that's actually the perspective of a couple of people in the Brood War AI community. Crazio, the top bot author, is very staunch on this, that if a bot can't be run on a desktop computer, he doesn't actually consider it a applicable and practical solution, right? So it's an interesting debate, and it happens all the time, within our
yeah, it's like in this steam locomotive analogy, it's like Google wins with the train, but only by shoveling piles of money into the firebox. So that's not really sustainable at this point, which does not take away from their achievements.
right,
I'm saying
which is
that
extraordinarily impressive.
it is.
It's just that no one else can, even napkin math of Google's AlphaStar project is 250, 300 million or more, even napkin math guesses, and that are probably very conservative, right? And that means that maybe only them and a couple of the largest companies in the world can afford to do it. That kind of puts everyone else kind of out of luck,
Yeah. Well, it sounds like it's just different categories of
Yes.
development. Like they're completely separate, like you're saying.
And also, an APM is not a meaningful in Brood War bots. I don't view it as a meaningful limitation, because what is an APM really? It's issuing an action. But if you issue an action, how much you are allowed to evaluate and think before you actually issue that action? That's not an actual APM. Like, okay, I want to move that unit there, but in the meantime, I wasted several billion CPU cycles to compute the exact point I want to move to. Likewise, if a human moves a unit to the other corner of the map, that command might have been based on years of experience, because I know that my opponent is doing some nasty shit on the other corner of the map, so I will send a probe to scout it. So that's just one APM. Just press the right mouse button.
Right.
So
I see what you're saying.
what is this? I don't view it as a actually meaningful metric. And other than that, there is an effect in Brood War. There is an effective cap of 40,000 APM, around 40,000 APM.
So commands start. It may seem arbitrarily high, but commands start to fall off in like the 25K range, and about 40K, the engine just says no more. And it's So bots, it's a hard thing because when you have only a few units, the bot can be really wasteful with its APM, and APM burns computational resources. So some bots are really APM efficient, and actually the better ones strangely tend to use kind of less because they're prepared for what if we get to the point where we have 200. I don't want to be putting too much of the game engine to the game crashes, right? And so some of those bots, they might have 500 or 1,000 APM kind of in the early mid game portions of the game, but then scale up really rapidly as the game gets really huge. And other bots can be really inefficient with their APM. They might have 30,000 APM at 10 minutes and crash at minute 11 because they're just asking too much. So it's something that bot authors have to carefully track, is dealing with the game engine and how many commands it can ingest. And it's something that people have encountered even in regular StarCraft especially, and playing, is what happens if you hold a key down. You can actually get really close to the ingest limit or come up across it just doing something simple like that, where it starts to skip commands that get ingested. Yeah.
Are there any other... Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just curious if there are any other like weird roadblocks that get in the way like that.
Sprite limit is a big one, but a lot of that's kind of rectified a little bit in SCR. Buffer stuff, related stuff can get a little weird. Obviously, we're seeing a lot more Valkyrie use in SCR than we are in 1.16. And there's really good reason
they shoot
for that.
Yeah.
They fire.
They actually
and also
work
the same
now.
thing goes in with Goliath, right? Goliath, once you get past a certain number, things don't work as you might think they would. And we come across that stuff really kind of early with bots because they spam so many commands in the engine. You get weird abnormalities that a human would probably never encounter.
Yeah.
So some of those natural factors of the game engine influence the APM that the bots can output safely before they start causing crashes, which there's sort of a self-limiter there. It's not like they can input as much as they want. They crash the game instantly. So there are practical limits.
Also, you have to keep in mind performance as well, because you can't just perform arbitrarily many computations every frame. A frame is on fastest game speed. There are 24 point something frames per second, and the frame is just one distinct unit of game time, the smallest time unit the game deals with. And you have to, that means that 1/24 of the second is kind of the time frame you have available. And even with today's computers, that's a finite resource. So you can't just spend arbitrarily much time computing your perfect little path.
Or you lag the game, right?
Or
so
you lag
if
the game.
You take too much time on a single frame. So some bots, they can't make all these decisions. In bot world, we don't think in terms of seconds, we think in terms of frames. So you can't just take as long as you want calculating, this grand fight that you want to have on that one section of time. That doesn't work. And so you have to spread the calculation over different frames. It gets really complicated quick. And some bots, say, we're going to decide if we want to fight every frame of the game, for example, and that can really hurt them because they might say, well, someone moved out of vision, now I'm going to attack, and now I get killed by the tank that's in the fog, right? That's a problem. So they want to remember things between the different frames of the game and pass those forward as they try and make their calculations and do combat simulation and stuff.
Actually, I have some articles about it on my site. The first thing I did when I started making computer do things was document my journey into bot development. And one of the big rabbit holes I fell into was pathfinding and coding a very efficient pathfinding algorithm. And my dog, who is called Jumpy Dog Go Bot, by the way, it's not a good one. I finally implemented a good algorithm, but I constantly struggled with the CPU resources and fitting that time frame. And yeah, that was just a tiny subset of problems. There are a lot of other calculation intensive tasks that you might need to do.
Some of the top bots, for instance, just as an example, this late game, if you're a Terran and wall your bases off and it scouts the buildings, some of the top bots that actually calculate pathfinding to see if they can get into a base that's blocked off by player buildings can only actually calculate that every like 5 or 10 seconds or something, right? So they can't do it every frame because that's too computationally inefficient to do all that math all the time. They can't fit it. It won't work.
And
So
you guys have to do that pathing AI again? Like you have to do it yourself because Brood Wars pathing doesn't.
A lot of bots
Don't
do their
have
own
to.
pathing because Brood Wars pathing stinks. And that's one
Right.
of the things we talked about in the big differences between Brood War pathing and SC2. It's that extra level of complexity that's with the game engine. Because we can't use Brood Wars pathing. It'd tell the goon to go to Bermuda.
Well, it's also because the player, when you're playing Brood War, you have to worry about the pathing too. You have to spam click your guy to go up the ramp sometimes, etc., etc. So,
yeah. And if you use the built-in, but the bots can't afford CPU-wise to actually do it all themselves all the time at big unit numbers.
Quick question, because when you said that, how it's like every 5 to 10 seconds it's computing if it can get up through certain wall-ins or something. So for instance, if I did the very old school 2 depot 1 barracks wall-in, and I just always left my barracks floating and then just landed it as the bot came, with that screwed up because it wouldn't figure out it came to the ramp?
Big time.
That can happen.
I promise you it will, because
That's
the bot will
awesome.
go, oh, I can get in, because it doesn't, most of the bots don't realize that the building can land. Right? And so, I can get in. I'm going to attack, and you land the building, and oh crap, and now I have to retreat. And you might be able to get them in a loop where you just take off and land. The army goes in that and kill it all.
Yeah. That's funny.
So there's some funny stuff like that that you can do to abuse them, but that's good stuff if you find it to tell the bot off there and be like, hey, you need to start tracking up and down on enemy buildings. And I guarantee, I think there's only like 1 or 2 bots that actually track that too, up or down on enemy buildings. There's not many. The list is short.
There are so many things that you have to take the account. Like, this is my composition. This is the enemy composition. These are the things I need. These are the resources I need. I have all this set up, but I might not have considered the position I'm in, and I just sent a clip to Cobra. Let's watch it.
Alrighty.
Okay. Count us down, please.
I'm ready.
Can we do it?
Just a moment, guys.
Okay.
He's pulling it out. So.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't know she put it in the Discord chat, so it was like.
Oh, I'm using the Zoom chat now. That's what I put it.
There's a lot more on the screen here than even the other overlay that I was
Yeah.
Just like, so what's it keeping track of on the left? On the left, you see like it says like 15 Hydras. It's just the count for how many units in it.
Yeah, it seems that way. 32 drones. Yeah, okay.
It's cool. It kind of gives you a peek under the hood of like, what it's thinking about, what it's doing.
And obviously, they don't always make good decisions.
Yes,
They don't. If I could beat some of them, there's no way it was making anything close to it.
And just to clarify, none of the bots are on the SCR ladder. You'll never encounter one at the current time of none of these sort of higher level ones. They're only running right now on 1.16, though of course the future.
I wanted to talk about that actually. So this only works on 1.16.
Yes.
And that's probably a big tech limitation for you guys? Do you have any plans of what's the problem with SCR? Like why
So-
116?
Well, yeah, we were expecting that question.
Yeah, no, this is a big deal because
Yes.
for one, when I went to play, I am spoiled with SCR and how you get to change some of your hotkeys. And I am a really weird player in the sense that I like to switch between, I play Brood War and SC2, and I feel like not a lot of people like to do both. But because I switch between, I'll have my Marines set to A in Brood War or whatever, just so it's
I do
not,
that too.
yeah, just so SC2 and Brood War aren't like too far off. And also, you know, A is a lot closer than M. It's just a little bit easier. But you know, for playing against these bots, you have to play on 1.16. So why is first of all, and then like, what do you think about trying to maybe get custom hotkeys in there or somehow bring it up to SCR?
I can answer part of it, and probably Sanko will grab the other half. So Blizzard did say that they had an interest in adding SCR support for BW API a couple years ago during one of their kind of updates on the game. But we haven't heard too much, though. We haven't heard too much about it. It may happen or it may not. Though we've been pursuing our own SCR support. It will probably be a ways down the road at this point.
But it's something you're looking at.
We're looking at it. You know,
that's cool.
Like there's this thing that we talked about before with the game changing versus and some of the advantages of StarCraft Brood War versus SC2. Having the game in a static state really is kind to developers because every time the game changes, they're not redoing a lot of their work. And even though SCR only makes some sort of slight changes, they are affecting things, right, as you move through that. And so there are some advantages especially from the like research and academic folks, that they're not in as much of a hurry, though everybody understands that we'll eventually get there, right? It may just take a little bit more time than we had thought.
So the second half of this is we don't really have technical limitations or obstacles of doing StarCraft remastered support. As Antigus said, what we don't have is a go ahead, for lack of better term, from Blizzard. We want to cooperate and act in good faith regarding that, and not just mess up remastered in this way. So I'm confident that it will happen eventually, but until then we have 1.16, and we could even like decompile the remastered client and implement everything in 1.16 from a technical perspective and create a demastered version of it, but we will not do that because that wouldn't be too nice to the good folks at Blizzard who worked on it, and probably would cause legal problems as well. But let's not go there. But one thing we can actually do to aid your playing experience, and we are actually we as in the SCHNAIL team, which is 90% me, we are working on is a custom hotkey plugin for the 1.16.
That's awesome, because that's my number one complaint, honestly, if I had to complain. You know, and I can't speak for like every Brood War player. I don't know how many people love their custom hotkeys, but I know I sure do. And adding hotkey support would be like the only I think barrier that people would have, really. So I think that's pretty sweet. You're doing that.
I feel like it would be really cool to practice against some of the rushing bots, but you'd obviously need your hotkeys if you're a competitive player.
If you want to really practice.
If you're practicing against bots doing the same things over and over, it's kind of about muscle memory and stuff. So I actually have one more kind of big question I wanted to throw to you guys, because we were talking about it a little bit before the show started. Can you talk about the tournament system that you guys have in place and the updating? Because I thought that was really interesting about like how often bots are getting updated and how like it line up with tournament schedules more often.
Sure. So there's actually a bunch of tournaments throughout the year. The big one is the SCHNAIL, which is sort of the oldest tournament that happens every December. In the early portion of the year, now there's Torch Up, which is occurring with FOSDEM in Brussels. After that is AIST, which is the tournament that I run, which is focused on a replication of a like an ASL type format. So it's like pro maps, and the elim is set up like that. We only play limited number games, not 99 or thousands. And then there's also CIG and COG, which happen in the summer and the fall. So, and then there's like a micro AI tournament that happens for tiny bots. So there's a half a dozen tournaments that happen throughout the year. Most of these are tied to academia, or different corporate sponsors or things like that. It is more competitive than people would think, especially at the high end, because winning at an academic conference is a big deal for the prestige of a university and research and things like this, right? And so oftentimes between tournaments, you'll see kind of a lapse in updates, and the night before, 10 minutes before the tournament goes live or submissions have to be in, everybody loads everything, all the new stuff. Which is really common. Normally within like bot development structures and stuff, authors tend to work on like bigger deep dive things between tournaments, and while tournaments going on, they're doing little tiny tweaks and stuff like that, right? So it's much more tuning as you get closer to tournaments, and much more deep dives when you have dips in between. Kind of like players, you want to improve yourself and take a deeper dive when the tournament season's not going on, and trying to make some big changes. And as you get closer, it's the tune and the little stuff.
It's actually like in a martial arts tournament, you don't reveal your tricks until you're facing your final opponent. That's not quite how martial arts work, but
do you ever,
the old movies, sure, that's that's how it was.
Do you guys ever like get you said like you have the one big tournament, do you ever like, I'm curious if there, like what are the prizes for winning?
So
are there prizes?
Most tournaments don't have prizes
right
that are in the academic world, because academia is the way that actually GIF prize money works in academia is not great, and is kind of frowned on, right?
Okay.
So that world doesn't really do prizes in the traditional sense.
Well,
the non-academic tournaments do. So the tournament that I'm hosting, AIST, which registration starts I think February 1st, we picked up a sponsor, and the winners will get an autonomous drone kit, which is everything you need to make a drone, that all you need is a laptop, and you plug a little USB antenna into, and you can fly it within a few miles, right? So that's the prize for something like that. So there are prizes that are related to AI, autonomous stuff. Groups like that make like graphics cards and things sometimes will be involved, because you use them for computational stuff. Like NVIDIA has their CUDA type things, and tensor cores and things like that are used for research. And so you see graphics card vendors involved on a pretty regular basis, and donating things.
Cool. I was just wondering how much it mirrored, like our people tournaments. And
it seems like it's so academic, and like people are doing this because it's such an interesting question and a good area for research or something like that, rather than it's like there is some amount of prestige, but it's not like it's
not the focus at all,
and it's not about money.
And a lot of the bots that are purely academic are in it for a really interesting like research question. They're in it to, we have this established bot that we've had for years. We're going to try a new way to exploit just purely openers versus opponents, right? Or something like that. So there's an academic question that's tied to it, or they're interested to something to do with AI in the stock market, and they're export an algorithm from that and plug it into a StarCraft bot to try something in a different environment, right? So you have these weird sort of sub projects that aren't necessarily tied to the bot's success. They're tied to it collecting data and doing something that's interesting or different academically. And there's a whole host of papers that get written and journal stuff, but a lot of that gets into the weeds of technical land.
The research usually means that you're not trying to win the tournament. You're trying to prove that your thesis is correct, and win rate is just a byproduct.
It's a battle of ideas, not a battle of winning. So it's like I don't know, it's hard to even make analogies to human play about stuff like this, but it's like the theory of how you counter Protoss openers, one university against another, right? It's that sort of stuff. An example of this is it one of these questions that's been researched and is being looked into is, in simple terms, is it better to have a set strategy and play and execute that perfectly, or is it better to be fully adaptive and reactive? And these are different theoretical approaches to playing StarCraft. And some StarCraft players echo this, right? Some StarCraft players, Beast was famous for 5 scouting people and just reacting the whole time to what they do, because he knows he's better in the long term, right? And that theory of playing has been tried in the StarCraft world. We're going to build one more worker than the other guy and then replicate their entire strategy perfectly and play it against them with a little bit more money, right? That's an example of something of like this theory. Another theory is, no, we're just going to be BS people, right? And use creative opening exploitation. So it's so there's some different schools of thoughts here between really reactive StarCraft play and like perfectly executed, practiced systems that are highly exploitive. And which one of those will win in the end? That's all still, the jury's out on that, right? And it's still, that battle's still going, and probably still go in player land also for years.
Oh, absolutely. I feel like that really echoes kind of the different outlooks that people have on their own games. Like, are you supposed to play the reactive game? Are you supposed to just nail a timing attack? And it's a complex question with no answer as far as I know.
Yeah. And doing it with imperfect information is hard.
Yeah.
One of the hardest, yeah. Kind of, we programmers kind of used to knowing all the inputs and just fine-tuning the algorithm until we get the desired outcome.
Well, guys, this has been really fascinating. Is there any like big area that we've completely neglected here as far as the StarCraft AI stuff goes?
Well, I personally would like to talk a little bit more about the StarCraft Human and AI ladder.
Please.
If we have. So I actually made an intro video about it, and if we could just play that and then discuss it, that would be awesome. I will send it to our dear producer, and anytime you're ready, Cobra.
Okay. 3, 2, 1.
Hi, Shonko from Making Computer Do Things here. This video is about showcasing the StarCraft Human and AI League client, or SCHNAIL client for short. As the name implies, this is a tool for you to play against custom Brood War AIs. These are far better than the stock AI that came with the game more than 20 years ago and provide an actual challenge. They are made by talented hobbyists and AI researchers. Let's see how it works. After the loading screen, where you can skip the downloads, you get into the launcher screen. Here you can quickly launch a game. Just select your race and change your player name.
So this is what I was using. This is what it would look like if you were to use it.
I will be SCHNAIL today.
It looks like Brood War, kind of.
Then you can select the bot that you want to play against and the map where you want to do it. You can filter the bots by their races, and you can sort the bot names alphabetically. But before pressing the play button, which is all you need to do if you want to launch a game, let me showcase some of the settings. You can launch StarCraft in windowed mode, but more importantly, you can select the language of the launcher. Localization is something we consider a priority. Yes, there is a Korean version, before you ask. Let's just stick with English and go back to the game tab. After pressing play, the game automatically
This looks
launches.
so easy.
It is.
The selected bot
absolutely
the goal.
It's cool how it speeds through all the menus and it just puts you in the game.
Wait
and
it's kind of interesting how it's like it looks like you're online, but you're not.
Do not be alarmed by this error message. This is something that will go away. For demonstration purposes,
if you really want to,
I will send my code to the other end of the map, so we will see if this bot is actually doing it.
I forgot.
So which sets it to as fast as the game will play. So if you want an extra challenge on top,
do your best. Wow. It seems that we've been defeated. Let's just surrender. Another cool feature is that on the score screen you can just press OK and get back to the launcher immediately. That's it for this demonstration. Keep in mind that this is very much a work in progress version. Many more features are planned and will be added in the future. Just to mention a few, custom hotkeys, bot ranking and challenges/achievements are all in the works. If you want to follow the progress of the project, you can go to SCHNAIL.com, where updates will be announced and the client will be available for you to download upon release. There is a public development roadmap with all the stuff we plan, and Patreon supporters can even vote on new features to add. Finally, for articles about SCHNAIL development and other things about the Brood War AI community, you can check out makingcomputerdotings.com. Thanks for watching and see you at release.
Very cool. I'm definitely going to try that out.
Yeah, you get obviously you get priority on that, so
I think you're gonna like it, man.
Antigua was trying to get me to try it. I really wanted to, and I don't know. I have 4 kids, but I didn't. I haven't tried playing these AIs yet. But you guys have really got me pumped at this point. And the launcher looks great. I mean, that looks very simple to do.
Yeah, that was actually the idea, because I view it that it's like user experience, because or gameplay experience, because we had something like something called drop launcher. Now it worked in a way that you download it, then download the bot file, then import that, then it didn't work, then okay, you need to install that third-party stuff, and you need to Google it, and somewhere along this, at the second step, half of the gamers just said it. Oh, fuck it, I don't care. And what I want is to streamline it, because we are not in 1998 anymore. Your average gamer is used to that I start the launcher and press play, and I don't have to do anything else. This is the expected step. This is the world we live in, so we have to accommodate that. And other than that, I'd like to engage with my audience, the gamers who want to play it, foster the human versus AI scene, and competition breeds like this platform breeds competition. It's what I'm meaning to say is, and that's a driving force for better and better bots. And I would like to reach the point when someone gets hired to write a bot for a pro team to practice. And I even want to be that person, but that's actually secondary in that regard.
How much would that cost to hire to get a bot?
Too much.
All right.
The thing is the cost to do that goes down every year. It depends what you wanted. If you only wanted a bot that would rush you, you could probably pick someone up for their yearly salary, right? But one of the top folks for their yearly salary. But if you wanted something that was on par with, especially something that doesn't exist yet, you're asking for a lot. I mean,
that'd be a lot.
Asking for the future, you don't want to know the answer to that question.
Yeah,
it starts with a lot of zeros, right? So, and years of work, right? So, but they get better all the time, and their capabilities keep expanding. So,
wow. Well, really, really sick. This has been wonderful. I've really enjoyed this. Yeah, I can't think of any other questions off the top of my head. So unless you guys have anything else, we'll probably jump into the Patreon questions.
Well,
anything else you guys want to bring?
Can we get a minute? I actually have some stuff stuff written down, but yeah, as the sun is coming up here soon, I'm a little bit slower than I would like to be.
It's we understand it must be 5 a.m. or so by now.
Yeah, it's actually 5:20. So.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I think yes, one topic we didn't really touch on: how do you begin to coding a bot, and how hard is it? We briefly mentioned it. And first of all, it's not hard. I know multiple people who don't have any kind of formal education in programming, and they made a bot. Not a top bot, admittedly, but still you can do it. And more importantly, this is something that you can use to learn programming. You don't need to be top of the ladder. You just need to create something.
Hey, this is actually really cool that you brought that up, actually. So I am 28 now. I'm getting, and I learned how to type on a computer from playing Brood War. And what I'm kind of getting at here is like Brood War got me into programming. Brood War got me into computer science. Now I'm like an adult, and I work at a school where the stuff I learned playing Brood War actually comes into play. I wrote them a website all from scratch, and it's really because I've met some guys on a StarCraft fan site, like doing StarCraft stuff. So what he's saying about this can teach you programming is actually, it's no joke. Like, it's fun. You're still playing the coolest game ever, StarCraft, and like you're learning a skill that you can use for the rest of your life. It's actually like, you know, I feel really strongly about that just because it's personally relates to me so much. But it's real, like that's real stuff. So anyway,
and it's oftentimes, you know, school projects are like, oh, learn this because you need to learn this. Like this gives you a reason to like keep pushing and learning and going down and the road and becoming a better developer and all that. And it ties something to it, and it's really enjoyable. And you know, when you're getting to watch your bot play, that's something that you created, and you end up cheering for it and all that. It's really enjoyable.
It's rewarding work for sure.
It's funny because I distinctly remember one of my elementary school teachers telling me that, yeah, you won't play this game in 20 years. But technically, I'm not the one who playing it, so it's kind of right. It was one of the great advices. The one other I received, that no one will ever pay you for staring at a screen all day. But yeah, you told me. Yeah. So
those gel with me as well, personally.
So getting back to how to begin coding, I would like to list 3 resources. 2 of them are mine, so I'm selflessly and shamelessly promoting myself here. So first of all, I hosted some coding streams with some bot authors, and one of those coding streams was with Nightcat, and we coded a bot from scratch. As in, we wrote down the first line on stream, and in 3 hours, we made a bot that could beat the stock AI in some of the cases. So a working bot, let's say. Second, I'm writing a book called the BWAPI, The Comprehensive Guide. And I'm mentioning this because this is, I mean this to be a comprehensive resource for every bot author who wants to be a Brood War AI bot writer. But in this book, so far, the chapters that I have been completing are dissecting the Brood War's inner works and the code itself. Now, let's note that the code itself is a decompiled code, not the original source code. But there are a lot of information, and this parts of this book are on my site, so it's free now. A lot of information that that pro gamers can, or not just pro, any gamers can benefit from, like unit movements, interactions, and skills. And in fact, I don't know then if you saw that tweet, but when casting ESL, you joked about someone will correct us about transport behavior. You remember that part?
I don't remember.
So it was like when a transport adopts a unit, the unit will face some way, and you said that it faces the. And
yeah. I remember now. Yeah.
Someone, and actually I took it upon myself and dig through the code and wrote a short article about how that unit facing works.
Cool.
The short gist of it probably doesn't really matter. So
okay. Thank you.
You can get a very minimal benefit when dropping reverse. Every other unit is just absolutely meaningless. But yeah, so things like that. And the last thing I want to mention, then I shut up for a moment, that,
sure.
that if you want to start this, join the SCHNAIL Discord. We are helpful, if sometimes devolving into memeing, but generally, if you want to learn to code, there will be people who want to help you and will interact with you in a positive way. Now, we are mercilessly banning trolls, so we don't tolerate that there. So come join us, come ask, and we are glad to spread the knowledge about this scene.
As well, for people that are on the professional playing side, some people who are really true experts at the inner working of the StarCraft game engine that know things about it that really no players that we've ever talked to know. That could be highly advantageous. There's some items like that that we're aware of that are don't really circulate in the professional circles. So if you have pro players that are interested in really learning the inner workings of the engine, a good example of this is Siege Tank turret rotation versus firing and how that works in TVT versus the angle from initial siege. There's a whole bunch of things like this that are not known in the greater professional playing community that are known quite well in the bot development community because we've been so far into the engine. So there are resources available there that may be of interest.
Yeah, the turret tracking is really weird about that. If I'm like on the left side of the map attacking towards the right, they always have a bit of an advantage, right? Because there's like a stall out on the turning of the turret.
Terran has in TVT, if you spawn bottom right or on the right side of the match, you have a large advantage in tank fights versus someone who spawns.
Yeah, because it actually starts pointing top left.
Yep, and if the other way has to spin 100
crazy.
and fire.
That's crazy.
But this is just one example of like 50 or 100 items that we're really well aware of that the community of players doesn't often realize. Some other examples, but just to say that there's a lot that can be done with mining that nobody knows about. We'll just say that.
That's very fascinating.
So, but those are things for another day. But it's just that those resources are available and the expertise is available in that community. We literally have people who've rewritten the entire Brood War engine from scratch in open source to host as a replay browser. So understand that the level of expertise exists for that.
I think that's one of the most important things, really, like just in terms of like getting exposure, like getting more people into AI stuff. The more you can, in my opinion, this is what I think, the more you can find things that are relevant to 1v1 players, I think the easier it is to just broadcast like, hey, we got some cool shit going on over here. That's all. Yeah,
understanding how the game works helps you, man.
It's fascinating, dude. I am like the biggest. I love the map editor. I didn't really play Brood War like as an RTS game until SC2 kind of showed me how cool RTS is. But I played Brood War because I like making maps and modding and the map editor stuff. Like I said, it led me towards a programming computer science life, and like I feel so strongly about that. I think the game StarCraft as a game and the game engine and blah 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 like is so much more than just ladder. So it's good stuff.
Certainly.
Mining reminds me of another clip, and I think that will be the last I post. It's called offensive mining. It's a revolutionary new tactic that we can employ, and
I'm excited.
It is exactly as silly as it sounds.
All right, let us know, Cobra.
Almost got it loaded.
All right.
This one's titled Offensive Mining. I'm curious. And it says board on top of the vultures. They're board vultures. Is that sort of how they think about their units sometimes? Like, oh, this one's bored and it needs an order or something.
You'll find snarky stuff all the time. You'll have someone that just says tanks, like they'll put an overlay for the tanks. It's just tanks. I hate tanks, or something like that.
Wow. All right, Cobra, you say you're ready?
Ready in 3, 2, 1.
Oh my. Oh.
Seeing vultures fight bio, I'm like, what planet am I on right now?
Yeah. Actually, in bot world, the jury is still out if mech is better than bio in TVT, which is a fascinating topic. Yeah, because ability to dodge splash with large amounts of bio and lockdown and stuff.
I was going to say they
It's
must know
actually
something
more
I don't here.
competitive
Yeah.
than it seems. So, but just interesting, fun stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, one more clip. One more clip, and then
All right,
I
one more.
stop. One more clip, then I stop
right.
because you reminded me of the lockdowns, and this is seriously funny, and I would pay to see someone's reaction to that. I literally can be. Literally good.
Get that clip up in just a minute.
3, 2, 1.
Deep Six returns.
That's
My
a lot
God.
of Marines, man. They're all kind of glitching out too. They got, they're overlapping on each other.
Yeah, and it's a little bit lagging, but that's not the fun part.
I'm not sure it even needed those with the amount of bio that's there, but
Yeah.
And he politely informs you that you're getting nude.
Oh wow, it does. It tells you the coordinates, and then it gives itself a number of points. That's pretty hilarious.
Yes.
That's some pretty sick BM. You award yourself points.
Some
for
of
killing
the
enemy
some
units.
of the bot authors like export lists of units that have killed the most enemy units in a game, or like high scores for nukes and things, so they can
That's
review them later
funny.
just for fun.
That's funny. I like
Cool.
it.
All right. Well, I think it's time to go on to the Patreon questions. This has been amazing. I feel like there's so much stuff still here to talk about, but
Oh, that is
getting long.
It's very
Yeah,
impressive. It's super
Yeah.
impressive what you guys have all built. So
Yeah,
That's-
no, thank you much. We'll jump into the Patreon questions. I think we'll probably have you guys back at some point. I'm going to try these bots, and
happy
see
to be
how
here.
that goes. That's going to be very fun. But for the Patreon questions, guys, if you have any questions for them, please go ahead. Go to patreon.com/The Pylon Show. And if you are a Patreon, you can ask questions over at thepylonshow.com. Drop them in there. Guys, if any of these questions that don't pertain to you, don't worry about it. you don't have to answer for those. A lot of them might end up being things like, what's your favorite StarCraft 2 pro gamer? And I don't think you guys are as into that, so that's okay.
It's not really our ball of wax, but if it's
No.
anything AI or Brood War or
Nice username, and I will field those ones.
right now, innovation is my favorite.
It's my friend Dave. So,
of course, again, big thanks to our 100-tier donators in Patreon: Astrofin, Field of Sins, Jerry Wang, and Manard. And let's get into those Patreon questions. All right. Nahyun asks, how do you teach or explain a bot a new build order or a cheese? Basically telling him, look, you can win the game really fast, really cheap. Why not try that? Wouldn't they think that they win or just play more games faster by just cheesing?
I can take that one.
Sure.
So there's actually about 3 questions in there. But so how do you teach a bot a build order? The more sophisticated bots actually have what's called a JSON file, a JSON file, which you can basically say, I want build 4x probe, comma, pylon, comma, gateway, comma, gateway, and they'll execute that. That's all you have to put in. The more complicated ones can ingest pure just comma with the different buildings that you want, and they'll execute them as you like. They have nice ingestion systems like that. You don't actually have to do the programming half for a specific build order. They're designed to be flexible. So hopefully that helps answer that part of it. The other half of it is maybe we don't have enough time for that.
yeah, basically any number of ways, and almost as many build order implementations as there are bots. So
yes.
it's a kind of vague question.
Okay. I get you guys. It's
sorry,
Nahyun, but it's yeah. I guess it's a
answer.
gigantic answer. This is
Join
the type of question that I ask where I'm like, I don't know anything. Can you explain the whole world to me?
How do I play Terran good?
Yeah, it's
Join the Discord.
That's a good metaphor.
Yeah, join the SCHNAIL Discord. If you have something really long like that and you really want the 2-hour technical answer. So,
Right. Well, thank you for the question, Nayan. Sate Zero asks, oh God, here we go. A sentient slice of pizza goes off on a murderous rampage, killing several humans in cold blood. If pizza gets convicted, the government will overreact and make laws banning pizza from being allowed in the public, so no more delivery pizza, unless you let pizza get away with this crime. Would you?
Pizza is not a legal entity, so it can't be convinced. Like it's inanimate objects. There are no inanimate objects can get away with murder.
Is this a legitimate?
But this one's sentient.
Is this a legitimate attempt at pizza as an analogy for AI, or is this just purely? I don't
know. This is a thing that people troll us with on the show as sentient food questions. So I see why you would think that, but
if a smartphone falls from the Empire State Building to your head and kills you, can a smartphone be convicted?
This is a really easy question, in my opinion. Of course, I would let the pizza go. Nothing is getting between me and my pizza. End of story.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. There we go. Sate Zero. Thanks for the massive troll question. All right. Zauber Garden asks, where can I send some pretty drawings to you lovely people? I make art about the Zerg after I play some matches of StarCraft, and I'd love it if Dan got one to hang in his kitchen and for his kids who admire smiley face, smiley face. Actually, I've had people send things like that before. What they normally do is send it to the studio. So if you send it with my name on it, I guess, to the Afrika building, I'll probably get it. That's happened before where people are like, hey, someone mailed this here for you. I was like, oh, thanks. Okay. Yeah, because obviously I'm not going to give my address out to the public. All right. Thank you for the question. Polly asks, 10th anniversary of StarCraft 2 this year. I don't know if Blizzard will celebrate it or not, but I would like to know how you would celebrate it if you were the CEO of Blizzard. Who to invite, the formats, will it be like the 20th StarCraft anniversary without Koreans or with them? I think that there are two different scenes in StarCraft 2, the Korean scene and the non-Korean scene. So I'd probably do it like that, where there'd be two celebrations, one in Korean, one in English. And yeah, I would make it like the 20th anniversary, just a bunch of people together having a good time. Hopefully they do something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, first of all, I hope they do something. I would be surprised if they don't do something.
Yeah, it's the 10 year.
Yeah, that's a huge deal. And also, I mean, to answer the question that you had, if I was the CEO of Blizzard, I would go nuts running an event. It's a fun idea to entertain. Like, what would I do if I wanted to do the sick SE2 event? And it's like, man, I would do everything. But what do I think is really going to happen? It's harder to say.
If I was the CEO of Blizzard, I would sell off all of the other IPs and everything into StarCraft 1 and 2.
Exactly.
Would you sell Warcraft 3 though? Yeah, I would sell that too. Sorry, guys. All right.
Don't tell Grubby.
Grassy Tiger asks, I want a nuke buff of some kind. Nukes are so awful from a viewer perspective. I wish that a StarCraft 2 community would work together to make unique mosh pit type videos on YouTube. We need to work with other content creators outside of StarCraft 2 to show the game a new audience. Any ideas? Special is my favorite pro. That's a little bit all over there, but I don't know what a mosh pit type video is.
Yeah, I have a lot of questions about this one. I mean, nuke montage mosh pit videos. I mean, you need like the drowning pool bodies hit the floor and like nukes dropping everywhere. Yeah, and then like I don't know.
There's some CS:GO headshots and then a nuke comes down. And
this comment comes from like a different era in 2003 or 4 when that would have been like cutting edge. And I want to
just music video on MTV for sure.
Yeah.
So
I respect that, but I don't know if we could get anything like that.
With that in mind, I do miss all of the Counter-Strike fan-made videos to Linkin Park music. Those were great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Distinctly early 2000.
Yeah. I mean, the Pimpus Plays videos are still awesome.
Yes, they're the bomb.
Those are still awesome, man.
Yeah. right. Thank you for the question, Grassy Tiger. Saft Scissors asks, given the patch has had some time to work itself out, what are the best and worst changes in your opinion? I think obviously Microbial Shroud needs to be reworked. The Adept thing, obviously everyone already knows, that was already spoken about, and all that. Do you have any favorite StarCraft 2 patch things from the new one, Joey?
Favorite changes of all time, or like the latest patch?
No,
sorry?
this specific patch. Like, is there anything that you're really digging?
Honestly, yeah, nothing is super standing out to me as amazing off the top of my head.
It's like a good patch, but it's not.
Yeah,
like, I'm not over the moon.
I like that they nerfed Nidus and stuff, and
yeah.
But yeah, it's hard to say. Nothing really stands out as amazing overall, though. I can't say I don't like the patch. Like Artosis said, it's a good patch. I like that Terran seems to be happier.
Yeah.
Besides
that overall is the best part for sure.
Yeah, I wish I could say more though, because I can't right now.
Yeah, no, it's kind of like, but that's a good type of patch to have. You know.
Oh, someone said fuck Lurker in chat, and I kind of agree with him. I'm losing to Lurker, and it's pissing me off. So,
sure.
So yes, what he said.
All right. Excellent. Thank you for the question. Red Gunner Guy asks, honest question, what is the dumbest thing you said during a cast? Not cool dumb, but just dumb, bad dumb. I asked my co-caster during the Singapore tournament why Terran went depot gas into racks, and I play Terran. It's for the Reaper. The dumbest thing I said during a cast, there would be no way for me to remember that, because
I can answer that for myself.
Yeah, please.
So I do the SCHNAIL casts, and there was a match in the map called Python, and I was musing, looking at the minimap. That's interesting. That map looks like a larva or a snake or something. And
you didn't realize that the thing in the center was the
no,
snake.
Absolutely that's completely gone over my head.
Literally why it's called that. No, I say so many stupid things during cast, but there's different levels of stupid too. Like, sometimes I'm just ignorant. Sometimes I say something that if you ask me the question, you're like, is this thing true? I'd be like, no. They're like, why did you say it? I'm like, huh. You know, it passes through your mind. So I remember once, like, I went on vacation for like 3 weeks or something to Canada, and I came back and saw people complaining about mass Oracle. And I made, this was one of the stupidest things I've said, but it wouldn't take the cake, trust me. But then I mentioned on the cast, I'm like, why are these people talking about mass Oracle? Just make Hydras or something. And then Damaga took the time to message me, and he's like, hey, no, really, the Oracles win. So I went into the one of those maps where you just make the units, and the Oracles slaughtered the Hydra so hard. I was like, oh no, I was so ignorant here. Like, this appeared while I was gone, and it's so good.
That meta was so funny for the month or month and a half.
So silly.
It was so funny. Like 10, 15 Oracles. Oh man.
Oh yeah. Yeah. All right. Thanks for the question. Inescu asks, a while back, balanced test matchmaking had a countdown timer before the start of the game, which never got implemented because the design team said it wasn't functioning properly. Does anyone know if they're still working on this? It would be a nice quality of life improvement, I feel. I mean, I would doubt that they're still working on it. It doesn't sound high priority, and I think most things being worked on are probably high priority things now.
Yeah, I haven't heard much about it since Blizzard posted anything about it in their blog, but if you think it's a good feature, and I think it's a good feature, make some noise about it, complain. And if if a lot of people think it's a good feature, they'll listen. In my opinion.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for the question. Optional player asks, aside from the money/uncertainty of gigs, what would be the more difficult things people are not understand behind being an e-caster? Is there any work for e-casters in other sporting jobs, i.e. writing for ESPN esports, other sports casting, even TV work? Or are eyes still not on us yet? I would say there is some other stuff. Like, I used to write for ESPN esports. other sports casting. I believe Golden Boy does some TV stuff for something on Netflix or something. I forget what it is, but I guess he got discovered, so that's cool. I think it matters where you are, what gigs you get. Like, for instance, Tasis and I are out in Korea, so we don't really get too many opportunities outside of just StarCraft things. Whereas, like, if you live in California, for instance, I've seen a lot of esports people do more crossover stuff. And other difficult things people do not understand behind the scenes. Yeah, well, you kind of nailed it with the uncertainty of gigs and stuff. That can be a bit difficult. Yeah, there you go. I hope that answers your question. Thunderjunk asks, no question this week. I just want to say it's really awesome to see Tasteless give the ACS qualifiers an honest shot. Seeing things like that makes me feel great passion for esports. We have the best community in the world. Thanks for all that you each do for the best esport. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate it.
That video was cool. Just to shout it out, I know you already posted it yourself, but I just watched it this last week. Artosis posted his tournament run with Tasteless, and like the guy just said in the question, it was fun to watch. So I recommend that one.
Thanks. Yeah, those are on my YouTube. And our last question of the week here from our very own Alessander. Which race has the best cheese, and what's your favorite human versus AI moment so far? And I believe that these are both about the AI things. What race cheese is the best, guys, and what's your favorite human versus AI moment?
Well, I already talked about it during the Zero stream when Purple Wave tried to stove that was absolutely. And if I may, I have a clip for that. Sure. There is when also from the Zero stream when he was quite surprised by a bot. Give me a second and care to answer that until that, Antigon?
Sure. So queens are a little stronger than you might think in bot world with Broodling versus Terran, because it can control so many of them simultaneously and be really efficient at it. So that's something that might surprise kind of as a cheese. Well, it's not really a cheese, more of a mid-game play, but it's fairly interesting. And you've seen it tried versus Terran Mech in human games.
It gets used a little bit, yeah. And it has a place. It's hard for them to get, you're trying to get 7 broodlings off before all your queens die or something. That can be really difficult. Yeah.
And a bot can be really efficient about it because a human has to kind of clone them all as a wave, and then they can't really back them up perfectly, but a bot can control them individually. So that's pretty interesting and can be really fun to watch. Kind of my favorite moment is actually playing versus a bot called McRave, and I sent 2 tanks and 3 vultures to take an expansion that was defended by 2 goons, and looked away for about 30 seconds, and all my units were dead, and the 2 goons were standing there. So you find interesting things that happen with micro because their individual ability to micro is sometimes exceptional in weird situations, and it can be very surprising.
So and the queens are fast units, and they can be used as decent scouts as well. And the bot can do that. So can we see the clip now?
Yep. Here we go. On 3, 2, 1.
We could use these bots. How we can make.
I hope you have sound.
What the fuck is going on?
I kind of said that, but it is good with without sound as well. But the reaction makes it.
Oh my god! What the fuck is going on?
Well, you don't. That's the last thing you'd ever expect to see. That's pretty funny.
That's pretty sick. Yeah, that clip. I can only really speak to the games I played versus myself, and I played maybe 7 or 8 tops. But I actually had one that I do remember really well, and I really liked the Purple Wave bot. I'm pretty sure it did a Zealot rush, and chat had kind of warned me beforehand. They're like, "Hey, it's gonna Zealot rush you," and I sort of blindly and stupidly continued to go 1 gate core and make a Dragoon instead of going 2 gate like a normal person. And I had the hell of a time like kiting goons versus zealots for like forever and ever and ever. And then eventually the zealots just kept coming and coming. And then eventually the zealots came with speed. And then eventually the DTs were mixing and then I died. But I thought it was
Remember.
that was by far the most fun game I had playing versus the bots just because of all the micro battles. And it was when they showed up with speed, I was just like, what? And yeah, so the purple wave one, and I see the developers in the chat too. He was really cool when I did the stream as well. So I recommend that one. I thought it was really enjoyable, and maybe I want to try to see if I can beat that one now that I know how it goes.
Another good moment was when you tried to rush Zealot rush Zerg, and he just beat you back with drones.
Yeah,
just excellent.
I think I tried a 9/9 gate or something, and it was horrible. I do play some Brood War, but I got beat down pretty bad. This is pretty difficult.
Be careful of the bot drone micro. The
that's
aspect of the ranged aspect of them with really good.
The worker micro is insane.
Scary.
The worker micro is actually it's not fair. It felt a little unfair. It's very impressive.
Trust
the micro,
me,
especially early game.
Against pros, it feels unfair. So I can't imagine the bot how strong that micro is going to be. Because if you're a good Protoss or Zerg, the way they glide behind my SCV that actually has range 0, it's fucking not a melee unit though. Okay, sick. It's frustrating.
Yeah,
the bots can do that where they'll follow your scout around as Terran and they'll kill it while chasing it.
Yeah. I have pros that try that and they get like 4 hits off, but eventually I can juke them, and get off and be like, okay, I'm still alive. Here we are.
So this isn't public, is it? Can people go download and play the bots today or no? Are you guys there?
Oh, Sanko, you there?
I actually your audio a little bit fuzzy. Can you repeat the question?
Is it public? Can people download the client and go play these bots right now or no?
The SCHNAIL client, no, unfortunately, it's not a public just yet.
Well, all I wanted to say is when this thing goes out, you should really pay attention and like check, then like follow their Twitter or whatever and see when it comes out because it's fun. Is all I'm trying to get at. Like it's fun to play against them. Just give it a shot.
Yeah.
By the way, it will be in a closed beta very soon, and I'm working as much as I can to get it to a present.
Not to pressure you, man. It's all good. I really liked it, so I'm really happy. That it's happening.
Thank you. It's very good.
Send me that download link. I need it soon. It looks fun.
Immediately, sir.
Excellent. Well, guys, this has been an awesome show. A big thanks to everyone who has supported the show, of course, on patreon.com/The Pylon Show. Definitely check out our Matcherino, matcherino.com/The Pylon Show. Use PayKingDuck as our code to get free money, and check out thepylonshow.com. A big thanks to the entire Pylon Show staff. The show does not get made just by me, obviously. I don't know how to make anything. Guys, huge thanks for coming on. This has been such an enlightening episode. I hope that everyone has learned a lot. Why don't you all go ahead and tell everyone where they can find out more, check you out in the future, and follow more of this if they're interested. Nice username. Let's start with you.
Okay, so my name is nice _ username. You can follow me on Twitter there or on Twitch there. And I just want to say, thank you so much again for having me. I'm not a bot maker or anything. I just was lucky enough to get to experience this. And so it's always an honor to come on. I think what these guys are doing is amazing. I know I've kind of disappeared myself, just not being as active or whatever, posting as many videos, but I haven't gone anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. And, you can still expect fun, cool things from me. The biggest thing I'm doing right now is making a new micro tournament map for SC2. So the old micro tournament maps, they're pretty fun. They're pretty cool. They kind of suck though. They're old and they're not updated for the current patch. So we're making a new one. I'm working with a good map maker named Isaiah. That's what I'm up to. And that's all I got for you. Thanks again.
Great. Thanks, man. Antigua, how about you? Where can people follow more of what you're doing and check all this out?
On the SSC AIT Discord, I'm on there. I also have a YouTube channel called Gaming and Research where I do a little bit of sort of technical stuff about bots. Sorry if it's not always sort of for the masses sort of stuff, mostly research and things like that. I'll be at the Association for the Advancement of Artificial Intelligence conference on the 7th and 8th in New York City. If you're an AI dev, shoot me a message on Discord, and I think there'll be a group of us there going out for dinner. So yeah, come hang out with us. The Discord's pretty friendly. It's mostly academics and stuff. And well, I am the admin. Just please don't spam me with too much crap. So keep the memes under control. So.
All right, excellent. And Sanko, how about you? Where can people follow more of what you're doing and check it out?
Well, my brand is making computer do things. That is how you say it, makingcomputerdothings.com. I have the same handle on Twitter. It's makingcomputer1 or something like this, but if you search for MCDT, then you can find it. YouTube is the same, and that's, I think, all. I also frequent the SSC AIT Discord, and I sometimes do the SSC AIT broadcasts as well. I think you can find me on this stuff, and the Undermine podcast is also on Making Computer Do Things, and it is on YouTube and on Spotify. I think that's all my handles on social media.
Great. And as for me, sorry again, everyone, I was sick this past week, so I missed all my streams in the Pylon show, but we are back. And I'd like to announce right now what our Pylon show is for the coming week, because this is kind of like, this one was supposed to be like 3 days ago or 4 days ago. But we'll be having a Pylon show at the normal time again this week, and we kind of have a big guest coming on. So if we can just bring that up on the stream.
It is live.
All right, so it is going to be Tim Morton coming on the show. Yeah, that's going to be absolutely amazing. For people who do not know, well, you've been living under a rock. Tim Morton basically ran StarCraft 2 for years and years and years. Very important person who recently left Blizzard. So we're going to have him on, talk about all manner of things along with Katz and Nathanius. It's going to be an absolutely wonderful episode. So if you'd like your questions asked, of course, check out Patreon to drop the questions. I do want to warn people that, of course, being a high-ranked employee of Blizzard, there will be various things that like NDAs have been signed on. So we may take some of the questions out if they just can't be answered. So sorry about that. I know that every week I ask every single Patreon question, but this week coming up may be slightly different because of that. It is beyond anyone's control. So definitely make sure you check that out. It's going to be a great episode, and I'll be back on my normal streaming schedule all week long. So that does it for this Pylon show. Thank you again, guys. This has been really great. I've learned a lot, and I think everyone else has too. So guys, we'll see you next time.
Thank you for giving us.
Thanks for
having
this
us.
opportunity.
Have a good night.
Bye.